4 RS-25s, 3 of them. There are Shuttle Heritage, 25s. 1 of them built from 3 of them. Shuttle Heritage, 1 of them built from, and there you see them moving. Shuttle parts, and there you see them moving. Now we're going to start moving the power from both the upper stage and lower stage of the rocket power to internal. From both the upper stage and lower stage of the rocket, and now going to battery power. Taking ground power away and now going to battery power.
GLS's go for upper stage to internal power. GLS's go for upper stage to internal power.
Our power is removed from the rocket's upper stage. Our power is removed from the rocket's upper stage. Same milestone for the lower core stage coming up, and it's been switched to battery. Same milestone for the lower core stage coming up. The 4-person Artemis 2 crew is 248,000 miles. The 4-person Artemis 2 crew is 248,000 miles. They will fly by it in 6 days. And if all goes well, they will fly by it in 6 days.
GLS's go for core stage to internal power.
All right, there's the rocket's core stage, which houses 3 flight computers. All right, there's the rocket's core stage, which houses 3 flight computers, is now on its own power. There's no more hold time because there's no more margin on these batteries. There's no more hold time because there's no more margin on these batteries to recharge if we had a hold. So we'd have to recycle back to T-10 to recharge if we had a hold.
1 minute.
Right now, the rocket does not know what the T0 is, but coming up at T-minus 33 seconds. Right now, the rocket does not know what the T0 is, but coming up at T-minus 33 seconds, autonomous launch sequencer or ALS. So the rocket will count itself down. Autonomous launch sequencer or ALS that could come from the rocket will count itself down. Now, shortly after liftoff, Houston will take control of the rocket, and my colleague Gary Jordan will take over commentary. Houston will take control of the rocket, and my colleague Gary Jordan will take over commentary. Great call out. The rocket is on its own. 4 brave explorers ready to ride the most powerful rocket. The rocket is on its own. 4 brave explorers ready to ride the most powerful rocket launched. NASA has ever. Sound suppression water is flowing.
15.
And sound suppression water is flowing. 10, 9, and here we go. 7, 10. RS-25 engines. 8, 7, 3. RS-25 engines. 1. Booster ignition. 4, 3, and liftoff. 1. The booster crew of Artemis 2 now bound for the moon. Humanity's next great voyage begins. The crew of Artemis 2 now bound for the moon. Humanity's next great voyage begins.
Good roll pitch.
Roger, roll pitch.
Good roll pitch.
Roger,
Houston now
roll
controlling
pitch.
the flight of integrity on the Artemis 2 mission around the moon. Houston now controlling the flight of integrity on the Artemis 2 mission around the moon.
Integrity, AMT high. Integrity, AMT high.
Time passing 30 seconds into the flight. Integrity passes the ultimate time passing 30 target milestone. Mission control Houston's integrity passes the ultimate engines. Target launch system core stage. Houston's integrity 3 miles in altitude. Launch system core stage. Traveling more than 1,200 miles in altitude. Traveling more than 1,200 miles per hour. Mission elapsed time, passing 1 minute, approaching max Q. Mission elapsed time, passing 1 minute, approaching max Q.
Dan, we have you loud and clear.
On, Ponce de Leon. Have you the
Dan,
same?
we have you loud and clear on Ponce de Leon.
Communication signal transfer
Have you the
confirmed
same?
as integrity and its crew go supersonic. Communication signal transfer confirmed as integrity and its crew go supersonic. Integrity is 14 miles in altitude into the Artemis 2 mission, traveling more than 2,600 miles 14 miles in altitude, 8 miles downrange, traveling more than 2,600 miles per hour. Minute 50 seconds of mission elapsed time. Standing by for main engine throttle down to 55%. Mission elapsed time. Standing by for main engine throttle down to 85%. Ahead of solid rocket booster separation expected at the 2-minute 9-second. We see throttle down. We see throttle down. Confirm separation. Main engine's throttling up. Confirm separation. engines throttling up, guidance converged.
Integrity, guidance converged, performance nominal, upper stage RCS ready. Guidance converged, performance nominal, upper stage RCS ready.
Copy all, Stan.
Integrity, SM priming complete. Integrity, SM priming complete.
2 minutes 45 seconds of mission elapsed time into the Artemis 2 mission. Thrusters on integrity 45 seconds and upper stage confirmed into the Artemis 2 mission. Service module fairing separation and upper stage confirmed in a ready state. Head of service module fairing separation. 3 minutes into the flight. Integrity 49 miles in altitude, 78 miles 3 minutes into the flight. Integrity now passing 5,000 miles in altitude, 78 miles downrange. Now passing 5,000 miles per hour. Standing by for launch board system jettison. Standing by for launch board system jettison.
Integrity, good last jettison, great view. Houston Integrity, good last
Copy jettison, Team Eco 8 plus 02. Copy jettison, Team Eco 8 plus 02.
We see the same on board, Stan.
And Houston has you loud and clear on Tidris at the Carmen line. And Houston has you loud and clear on Tidris at the Carmen line.
Stan, we have the same.
3 minutes 50 seconds into the flight of Artemis 2. Wiseman, Glover, Cook, and Hansen crossed the boundary to space with good Artemis 2. Wiseman, Glover, Cook, and Hansen acquired after last jettison, now working on internal checks to verify accuracy. Signals acquired after last jettison, now working on internal checks to verify the time of main engine cutoff confirmed at 8 minutes 2 seconds. Time officer analyzed the time of main engine cutoff confirmed at 8 minutes 2 seconds. Time of MECO.
Integrity, GPS processing. Integrity, GPS processing.
Outstanding, Stan. We see the same, and we have a beautiful moonrise. We're headed right at it. Outstanding, Stan. We see the same, and we have a beautiful moonrise. We're headed right at it.
Approaching 5 minutes into the flight, Commander Reed Wiseman confirms he has visuals of his destination. GPS guidance, navigation, and control software visuals of his destination. Sends to navigation and control software finishes internal checks and sends to navigation channels.
Integrity, 3 engine press. Integrity, 3 engine press.
3 engine press.
On time now passing 5 minutes 20 seconds of mission elapsed time into the Artemis 2 mission. On time now passing 5 minutes 20 seconds of mission elapsed time into the Artemis 2 mission. At this point, 3 good main engines are all that's needed. At this time we're saying 4 good engines here, mission control Houston. Target. Integrity, this time we're saying 4 good engines, 330 miles downrange, approaching 10,000 miles in altitude, 330 miles downrange, approaching 10,000 miles per hour.
Integrity, looking good at 6 minutes. Integrity, looking good at 6 minutes.
Same on board, Stan. Same on
good
board,
trajectory
Stan.
and engine performance. Booster officer will good trajectory and engine performance. Flight Director Judd Friedling expected at the 7-minute mark. The shutdown plan to Flight Director Judd Friedling expected at the 7-minute mark. Miles in altitude, 460 miles downrange. 78
Integrity,
miles in altitude, 460 miles downrange.
Integrity, expect nominal shutdown.
Integrity copies nominal shutdown. Integrity copies nominal shutdown.
6 minutes 40 seconds of mission elapsed time. Shutdown plan is as 6 expected. 6 minutes 40 seconds of mission elapsed time. Shutdown plan is as expected into the flight. Again, the time of MECO was confirmed at 8 minutes 2 seconds into the flight. Seven minutes of mission elapsed time. 7 minutes of mission elapsed time. Throttling down as we approach the abort once around option. Throttling milestone down as we approach the abort once around option. milestone. Now 84 miles an altitude, 650 miles downrange. Now 84 miles an altitude, 650 miles downrange, traveling more than
Integrity
15,000 miles per hour.
open. Integrity AOA open.
AOA open.
The window is now open for an abort once around option that would target splashdown in the Pacific Ocean. Still following nominal ascent at this time. Splashdown in the Pacific Ocean. Still following nominal ascent at this time. About 10 seconds remaining until the main engine cutoff of the Space Launch System core stage. 10 seconds remaining until the main engine cutoff of the Space Launch System core stage separation. Standing by for confirmation of MECO and core stage separation.
Integrity and nominal MECO core stage separated. Integrity and nominal MECO core stage separated.
We see the same on board, Stan. We see the same on board, Stan.
8 minutes 40 seconds into the flight, we have a nominal main engine cutoff heading in the 8 minutes 40 seconds into the flight, we have a nominal main engine cutoff heading. Core stage has separated, done its job to swing around upper stage. The interim stage has separated, done its job. Space Launch System upper stage to the Orion spacecraft. Propulsion stage, or ICPS, still attached to the Orion spacecraft. 9 minutes of mission elapsed time. Integrity crew of Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Cook, and mission elapsed time. Integrity crew of Reed Wiseman at the beginning of their journey to the moon. And Jeremy Hansen now in orbit around the Earth at the beginning of their journey to the moon.
Integrity Houston looking ahead to PRM numbers so far. Integrity Houston looking ahead to PRM numbers so far per the pad.
Copy that, Stan. Numbers for the pad. Copy that, Stan. Numbers for the pad.
Capcom Stan Loves now reminding the crew that Capcom Stan Loves perigee raise maneuver time of ignition is as expected prior to perigee raise maneuver time of ignition is as expected prior to that time being 49 minutes 50 seconds of mission elapsed time. That time being 49 minutes 50 seconds of mission elapsed time.
Integrity, good. NEDS deploy. Integrity, good. NEDS deploy.
Copy that, Stan. Good, Neds. Copy that, Stan. Good, Neds.
And Integrity Houston for PWD setup. Just a reminder, halfway open on the secondary. For PWD setup. Just a reminder, halfway open on the secondary.
We copy that, Stan. Halfway open. We copy that, Stan. Halfway open.
Passing 11 minutes of mission elapsed time. Here, overhearing the conversation between Capcom Stan Love and Commander Reed Wiseman. Here, overhearing the conversation between Capcom Stan Love and Commander Reed Wiseman. System already passing some milestones. That is, we have a good nozzle extension deployment system. Complete. We also have the visors are confirmed up now past the dynamic phase of flight. We also have the visors are confirmed up now past the dynamic phase of flight. That is ascent. Their launch and entry suits. Their launch and entry suits. An extra layer of protection. Now not that as provided needed, them an extra layer to raise those visors. Now not as needed, they're going to raise those visors. And later in today's mission, they will begin to egress and or later in today's mission, they will some of their egress or initial tasks of activating some of the systems aboard initial tasks of activating some of the systems aboard in the Integrity 12 minutes of mission elapsed time. Again, the perigee raise passing 12 minutes of mission elapsed time. Again, the 50 minutes of mission elapsed time, 49 minutes, 50 seconds. Near 50 minutes of mission elapsed time, 49 working towards 50 seconds. That's what the crew is going to be working towards. The preparing for that milestone. Victor Glover will focus on preparing for that milestone. In the meantime, mission specialist Christina Cook and Jeremy Hansen. In the meantime, mission specialist Christina Cook the activation of Jeremy Hansen control life support systems. You may hear some of the confirmation of their activation over the Orion to Earth. You may hear confirmation of their activation over the Orion to Earth communication network.
Houston, C3 aux power back in auto. Houston,
copy C3 aux, and we're 2 minutes to maneuver. Copy C3 aux, and we're 2 minutes to maneuver.
"13 minutes and 30 seconds of mission elapsed time. We're going to continue to follow 13 minutes and 30 seconds of mission elapsed time. We're going to continue to follow their journey around the moon to verify the systems that will take us to its surface. An incredible ascent to verify the systems that will take us to its surface. Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Cook, and Jeremy Hansen begin their journey to the moon. Victor Glover, still milestones to Jeremy Hansen. We await solar array deploy and critical burns. Still milestones to come up as we await solar array deploy and critical burns before engines are fired. It's a high Earth orbit around the Earth. We'll keep tabs on Integrity and its crew from here in Mission Control Houston. We'll keep tabs on Integrity and its crew from here in Mission Control Houston at the Kennedy Space Center. But for now, we're going to send it back to you how Megan and launch experience was over on the Space Coast. Very jealous to hear how
Gary,
the launch
people are just joining us. Welcome back to the Space Coast, where we just saw Artemis 2 people are just joining us. Welcome back to the Space Coast, where we just saw an amazing launch and an emotional one too. As soon as the rocket lifted off, Nicole, amazing launch. You had tears in your eyes. I had tears in my eyes, and we had all these people around us cheering. You had tears in your eyes. I had tears in my eyes, and we had all these people around us cheering. It was amazing.
You know, we've got 4 friends and family members headed to the moon. It was a beautiful launch.
Yeah. How does that make you feel?
We've got 4 friends and family members headed to the moon. It's pretty amazing.
But also, as you said, how does that make you feel as someone who, is an astronaut as well, but also, as you said,
man, we don't have the words in the English language to describe this kind of an event. And man, we don't have the words in the English language to describe this kind of an event. And they are truly breaking so many barriers. And hopefully, they are truly, as Gary just said, they've got a long day ahead of them. So hopefully, wishing them well on everything. But so far, Gary just said they've got a long day ahead of them. So wishing them well on everything. But so far, what a beautiful launch to watch.
Maybe to be returning to the lunar orbit than any other humans before them. Maybe they go farther from Earth than any other humans before. Maybe they see parts of the moon that we've never seen before. I mean, all of these milestones that we break in just a 10-day mission.
Yes, what a way to welcome in the Artemis
that we
generation.
break in just a 10-day mission. Yeah, how do you feel? I mean, we saw some beautiful shots we were covering. How do you feel? I mean, we saw some beautiful shots we were covering. Falling away as we continued up into our ascents, but also some of those crowd shots where we saw young and old, just to our ascents, but also some of those crowd shots where we saw young and old.
Man, we are going back to the moon for all, and we saw that today. We saw that in all the crowds. We are going back to the moon for all, and we saw that sunrise or sunset. I guess they just made it over the crest of the earth, and you could see the sunrise or sunset. I guess they just made it over the crest of the earth, and you could see the sun. What they're looking at now, and I can't wait to see what they're looking at. And I can't imagine about 5 or 6 days. What they're looking at now, and I can't wait to see what they're looking at in about 5 or 6 days.
And you know, I know a lot of people are like, you know what, any little thing we have to be keeping safety in mind, and we want to make sure we're ready to go. We have to be keeping safety in mind, and we want to make sure we're ready to go. But we were ready to go, and I think it surprised a lot of people.
It kind of surprised me as well. But you know, it's just a testament to the team here that has been working so hard. But you know, it's just a testament to the team here that has been working so hard on Artemis. You know, Artemis, we were able to go in and fix those things. We even had a couple wet mishaps today. Not mishaps, but a couple, anomalies today that the team creatively came up with solutions for. You know, anomalies today that the team creatively came up with solutions for.
And so we can continue to watch Christina, Reed, Victor, and Jeremy on their way now. Christina to the moon, Victor and Jeremy on their way now the next in-flight milestones, deploying Orion's orbit and awaiting the next in-flight milestones with mission deploying Orion's solar arrays. So why don't we get back in with Mission Control and Gary.
Hey, thank you, Megan. Again, we're following along in the action. It is a long day. They have a number of procedures they need to get to immediately in their timeline. Long day. They have a number of procedures they need to get to immediately in their timeline.
On board per the ETSI-DEM. And Integrity Houston, cross tie is on board per the ETSI-DEM.
We copy Houston. Thank you. We copy Houston. Thank you.
Cross tie referring to flight controllers here initiating a connection between some of the batteries aboard the Orion spacecraft. Connection between some of the batteries aboard, allowing for an even distribution of power. This is the allowing for an even flight control teams that took us through ascent of the Artemis 2 mission today. Flight control teams that took us through ascent of the Artemis 2 mission today. As you see, passing 18 minutes of mission elapsed time. Right now we're, as you see, passing 18 minutes of spacecraft integrity and the interim cryogenic propulsion system are maneuvering tail to sun, and the interim cryogenic propulsion system are maneuvering tail to sun. It is in this orientation, this attitude.
Integrity, any words on that momentary?
It is in this orientation, this attitude.
Integrity, any words on that momentary prop caution?
And read no action, we're looking at it. And read no action, we're looking at it.
Commander Reed Wiseman verifying what is being routed to his displays aboard integrity. Routed to his displays. Engineer confirming that no action is needed at this time. They're pressing through with their nominal procedures to prepare for the at this time. Perigee raise maneuver. With their nominal procedures to prepare for the solar array wing deploy ahead of that. And of course, the solar array wing deploy is a critical milestone. We'll continue to have our coverage. Wing deploy is a critical milestone until that deployment. To have our coverage successful launch is just the beginning. That deployment of the solar arrays. Successful launch is just confirmation that deployment of the solar arrays and wings are successful confirmation. That those is a significant milestone and says to the flight control teams that we will continue on today's significant milestone needs to be drawn to the flight control teams that we will continue on today's mission. Some of the power needs to be drawn until then the AOA open option that was called up on until then the AOA open option that was called up on ascent. The abort once around ATO is the current option will be switched to a preferred mode ATO at the time that the solar array wings switched to a preferred mode. Gives the flight control teams a little bit more flexibility.
Integrity
Gives the flight control teams a little bit more flexibility.
For your pad. Integrity Houston, update on TDRS handover for your pad.
Give us just 1 minute. Give us just 1 minute. You can read it. Ike is ready to copy.
Roger. TDRS handover east to west expected 1 second earlier. TDRS handover east to west expected 1 second earlier at 5:1 minutes 26 seconds.
Hi, Stan. We copy 1 second earlier for 5126. Hi, Stan. We copy 1 second earlier for 5126. Thermal knives east to west and
we concur. Thanks for the report.
Firing.
We concur. Thanks for the report.
Read back of the reports that you just heard on the Orion to Earth network. Read back of the reports that you just heard on the Orion to Earth network. The RL-10 nozzle on the end of the ICPS Integrity has maneuvered towards the sun. The RL-10 nozzle on the end of the ICPS is pointed towards the sun. And the solar array deployment sequence has confirmed. It'll be several minutes until they are what is called deployment latched position. It'll be several minutes until they are latched and confirmed to be drawing power. They can switch the mode to ATO and continue. Once they are latched and confirmed to be drawing power, they can switch the mode to ATO. The teacher's handover at the pad. That message meant the teacher's handover at the pad. That message meant the crew was provided. The crew was provided numbers of when to expect handovers between the tracking and data relay satellites. Of when to expect handovers between the tracking and data relay satellite 45. Currently orbiting Earth at an altitude of 545 in a near-Earth network. Statute communication system, the tracking and data relay satellites. Near-Earth network. Geosynchronous satellite system, the tracking and data relay satellites above the Earth. Geosynchronous satellites that are stationed about 23,000 miles after the Apogee rays burn that occurs later today. After the Apogee rays burn itself occurs later today, that surpasses itself will put them in an altitude and data relay satellites, and they will transition to the deep space network relay satellites, and they will transition to the deep space network today.
We see two temperature measurements right near the lines. We see momentary message you saw earlier. We're going to right near the lines. It's CM momentary message you saw earlier. We're going to T1 and CM1 helium heater going suppressed. T1 and heater 1 T1. They're going suppressed.
Integrity, thank you. We see the same. Integrity, thank you. We see the same.
This is Mission Control Houston, passing 23 minutes of mission elapsed time into the Artemis 2 mission. This is Mission Control Houston, passing 23 minutes of mission elapsed time into the Artemis 2 mission. This is after a launch that began at 5:35 and 12 seconds Central Time, 6:35 and 12 seconds p.m. 35 and 12 seconds Central Time, 6:35 and 12 seconds p.m. Eastern Time. Right now, the orientation you're seeing from our aero visualization. Orientation translates some from the telemetry that we're getting from the spacecraft and puts it into a model. Translate some of the telemetry that we're getting from the spacecraft and puts it into a model. So you can follow here on some of the milestones that we are the RL-10 nozzle that you see at the left end of your screen. The RL-10 nozzle that you see at the left end of your screen is pointed towards the sun. Though it is currently not firing, that nozzle is pointed towards the sun. From this visualization, they look fully stowed in a position. From this visualization, they look fully stowed in a position.
We are happy to report that Jeremy has the O2
Copy O2 sensors. Copy O2 sensors.
Again, Commander Reed Wiseman and Pilot Victor Glover overseeing the deployment of the solar arrays. Reed Wiseman and Pilot Victor Glover overseeing the deployment of the solar arrays. Maneuver changes ahead of the first attitude of the ICPS engine ahead of the first burn of the ICPS engine.
Deployed and latched, ready for ATO preferred. We see 4 saws deployed and latched, ready for ATO preferred.
In the procedure stand, and we see the same thing. Yeah, we're almost there in the procedure stand, and we see the same thing.
And Integrity Houston, we are seeing a 7-second miscompare between the MET on Orion and ICPS miscompare between the MET on Orion and ICPS from your center status bar and read for the ICPS on from your center status bar and for the ICPS on StackSum.
And Stan, we see a absolutely precise alignment. MET 2514, absolutely 15, precise alignment. MET precisely aligned with ICPS. 15, 16, precisely aligned with ICPS.
Copy. Thank you for that. We'll investigate a ground issue. Copy. Thank you for that. We'll investigate a ground issue. Copy. ATO preferred.
Integrity ATO preferred set.
Copy. ATO preferred.
This is Mission Control Houston, 25 minutes, 45 seconds into the flight of Artemis 2. This is Mission Control Houston, 25 minutes, 45 seconds into the flight of Artemis 2. Deployed and latched. We have confirmation that all this is the configuration wings are deployed to ATO preferred, which you did hear confirmed from Pilot Victor Glover. That mode has been switched. Which you did hear confirmed from Pilot Victor Glover. That mode has been switched. There's also a discussion with Capcom Stan Love and Commander Reed Wiseman about the alignment of the MET clocks on the Orion spacecraft. Commander Reed Wiseman about the ICPS. The MET clocks on the Orion spacecraft are in sync. And no issues. The ICPS on the ground. Reed Wiseman confirmed we're proceeding with today's mission. No issues. They're 26 minutes on the ground. Mission elapsed time. We're proceeding with today's mission. This is Mission Control Houston. We're approaching 28 minutes of mission elapsed time into the Mission Control Houston. We're approaching 28 minutes of mission elapsed time. We've had a successful liftoff from the pad. At this point, we've had a successful liftoff from the pad. 5:35 p.m. and 12 seconds p.m. Central Time. 5:35 p.m. and 12 seconds p.m. Central Eastern Time. 6:35 and 12 seconds p.m. Eastern Time. We've had a good main engine cutoff, core stage separation, and a good trajectory to begin today's mission. Cutoff, core stage separation, and a good trajectory to begin today's mission. Spacecraft has maneuvered tail to sun. We're standing by for another maneuver to tail to sun. We're standing by for another maneuver to maneuver into the RL-10 engine of the ICPS. It's pointed in the correct orientation for the engine of the perigee-raise maneuver. It's pointed in the correct orientation. We did hear confirmation that the perigee-raise maneuver time of ignition. We did hear confirmation that the pad, which means it was the time of ignition, has been confirmed per the pad, which means it was the predicted time.
We're taking channel 1 to unfiltered and to BFS. We're taking channel 1 to unfiltered and to BFS.
Okay, Stan, we're watching. Go ahead. Okay, Stan, we're watching. Go ahead.
Capcom Stan Love reading up to the crew of Integrity. Stan Love switch the navigation source reading up to the crew channel of Integrity. Standing by for confirmation the navigation that source from channel 1. Victor Glover standing by for confirmation that switch has occurred. We'll receive confirmation Victor Glover and as at least watching to confirm that switch has occurred. At least watching to confirm that switch has occurred. Again, the perigee-raise maneuver that we're heading towards. Not too long from now, we're actually that we're heading towards inside 20 minutes. Not too long from now, we're actually from the time of ignition of the perigee-raise maneuver. At this time, from the time of ignition of the perigee-raise maneuver. We did have a successful deployment and launched of all 4 solar array wings. We did have a successful deployment and launched of configuration needed to commit to the perigee-raise maneuver. This is the configuration needed to commit here in Mission Control Houston. Will continue to evaluate that everything is good. Flight controllers here in Mission Control Houston will continue to evaluate that everything is good before perigee, the lowest point in the orbit from 15 to 100 nautical miles. The lowest point in the orbit from 15 to 100 is needed to continue in low Earth orbit and hit the target for the apogee raise needed to continue in low Earth orbit and hit the target for the remainder of the day and set them up for the high Earth orbit for the remainder of the day and set them up for the translunar injection and head to the moon tomorrow to execute the translunar injection and head to the burn duration of the perigee-raise maneuver is 26 seconds. The burn duration of the perigee-raise maneuver is relatively short burn, but it does raise the perigee and do the job to get into the relatively short burn, but it does raise the perigee and do the job to get main engine on the ICPS correct position before firing that. The pad had a teacher's handover. This is the tracking and data relay satellites. The pad had a teacher's handover. This is the tracking and data relay satellites around the globe, east to west. And as geosynchronous satellites that are positioned around the globe, around the Earth, and as Orion makes its way above the west coast of Africa at an altitude of about 923 statute miles. At an altitude of about 923 statute miles and counting. The perigee-raise maneuver is not executed at the perigee. It is rather executed on the perigee-raise maneuver is actually closer to the perigee. It is rather executed on the perigee on the other end of the orbit, actually closer to the apogee nautical miles. But what it does is it raises the perigee on the other end of the orbit. The 26-second duration burn does not conflict with the time that they've reported of the tracking and data relay satellite handover from TGS east to west. The 26-second duration burn does not conflict with the not only by Integrity today, but the International Space Station satellite handover from TGS east to west. Again, geosynchronous satellites that are used not only by Integrity today, but the International Space Station as well. That time of handover is 51 minutes, 26 seconds. Plenty of margin. That time of handover is 51 minutes, 26 seconds. and the trajectory is analyzed to see whether it was a good burn. Before the good burn means that the burn was performed cutoff as expected, and sets the trajectory is analyzed to see whether it was a good burn. Perigee target mark. Good burn means that the burn was performed as expected, and sets the trajectory on course for that 100 nautical mile perigee target mark. Again, for those sticking with us on NASA Plus and following along on our coverage, we will continue to follow and to cover the mission until... Again, for those sticking with us on NASA Plus and following along on our coverage, we will continue to cover the mission 24/7. Cover the mission until... but we'll wrap up our coverage here shortly. Cover the mission 24/7. Now that solar array wing deployment has occurred on NASA Plus and but we'll wrap up our coverage here shortly. Amazon Prime, and now that solar array wing deployment continue coverage 24/7 on NASA Plus and YouTube channel. For those that want to Amazon see Prime, all of the upcoming milestones, there are select times. Continue coverage 24/7 at the NASA YouTube channel, NASA Plus. For those that want to see all of the upcoming milestones, there are select times. The latest on when to find those activities. To NASA Plus. Given that this is an operational mission, we do want to make sure that we go to nasa.gov to find the latest on maintaining transparency in the mission and providing you all the information. Given that this is an operational mission, on what's happening in space, that we are, as Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina maintaining Cook, transparency in the mission and providing you all the information on their mission on what's happening in space. As Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Cook, and Jeremy Hansen head on their mission around the moon. Inside Integrity at this time. Again, the solar array wings have deployed. The Integrity is maneuvering to its burn attitude ahead of inside the Integrity at this time. Again, the solar array wings have deployed. The Integrity is maneuvering the steps to its burn attitude primarily done by Commander Reed Wiseman and pilot Victor Glover. Perigee raise maneuver. Mission Specialist Christina Cook and Jeremy Hansen focusing on some of primarily the system activation inside pilot Victor Glover, namely the environmental and control. Mission Specialist Christina Cook and Jeremy Hansen focusing on the activation and checkout of some of these critical systems are very important, namely the environmental and control, mission, making sure that those systems are in a good condition, out of some of these critical systems are very important to continuing on the mission. The necessary systems are in a good condition and in a reliable condition of the crew with humans on board. The necessary of the mission that environmental and control flight days needs of the crew with humans on board through the duration of the mission that extends 10 flight days. For an update to the perigee raise maneuver time of ignition. Should be right up to the crew very shortly.
Integrity Houston, updated PRM numbers when you're ready to copy.
Maneuver time of ignition. Should be right up to the crew very shortly.
Houston,
Integrity Houston, updated PRM numbers when you're ready to copy. KIG is 2 seconds earlier at 4 9er minutes for 8 seconds. TIGO unchanged at 2 KIG is 2 seconds earlier at 4 9er minutes for 8 seconds. TIGO unchanged at 2 6 seconds.
49, 48. TIGO 26.
This is Mission Control Houston. With that update, we are approaching a little more than 13 minutes from the time of ignition of the perigee raise maneuver. That time Mission Control Houston. With that update, we are approaching 49 minutes 50 seconds. A little more than 13 minutes from the time of ignition of the perigee raise maneuver. That time updated to be 2 seconds earlier was 49 minutes 50 seconds of mission elapsed time. Will still remain at 26 seconds. Relatively short duration burn. Again, just raises the duration of the burn. That's what was referred to as the TGO. Will still remain at 26 seconds, relatively short duration burn. Again, making sure they hit the mark on that time of ignition is the primary concern of Commander Reed Wiseman and pilot Victor Glover. Making sure they hit the mark on that time of ignition inside activating the primary concern of control and life support Commander Reed Wiseman and pilot Victor Glover. Mission Specialist Christina Cook and Jeremy Hansen inside activating those environmental control and life support systems. At this time, all 4 crew members are wearing the launch and entry suits.
Integrity Houston, for Optimus on the PCD,
At this time, all 4 crew members
time
are
update
wearing
instructions when
the
you're
launch
ready.
and entry suits.
Integrity Houston, for Optimus on the PCD, we have time update instructions when you're ready.
And Houston, Integrity, we copy. Hands are pretty busy at this time. I think we will call you back when we're ready for that. And Houston,
all right, that one is not
copy.
urgent. 2 minutes to maneuver to PRM attitude.
We will call you back when we're ready for that. We are watching.
All right, that one is not urgent. 2 minutes to maneuver to PRM attitude.
We are
Pilot Victor Glover
and,
confirming that maneuver less than 2 minutes. Again, that the point of that maneuver is to point the main engine of the ICPS, the RL-10 engine, less than 2 minutes orientation to execute that 26-second burn. And the point of that maneuver is to point the main engine of the ICPS, the RL-10 engine, in the proper orientation to execute that 26-second burn. It needs to point in the correct position to achieve the goal. You heard some of the environmental control system activations over Orion to Earth. Jeremy Hansen activated the O2 sensors. You heard some of the environmental control system activations over Orion to Earth. Jeremy Hansen activated the O2 sensors. With all during all of the activations here on the ground, Mission Control Houston Flight Director Judd Freeling is doing a poll with all flight controllers in the room. With all to see if we are in a go position here on the ground. Mission Control Houston Flight Director Judd Freeling is doing a poll with all flight controllers in the room. Once concluded, to see if we are in a go position to go ahead and we'll execute the perigee raise maneuver. Once concluded, Stan Love will report it back up to the crew, and we'll stand by for that.
Integrity Houston, MCC polls go for PRM, pending attitude and SAWS. Integrity Houston, MCC polls go for PRM, pending attitude and SAWS.
Maneuver starting. Okay, we copy. MCC is go. Maneuver starting.
40 minutes of mission elapsed time. The maneuver to the burn attitude has begun. The maneuver also is paired with reorientation of the solar array wings that have been deployed. The maneuver to the burn attitude has begun. Various positions. The maneuver also is paired with reorientation of the solar array wings that have been deployed. The draw of power from they will have various positions throughout the duration of the flight. A biased solar array is meant to maximize the draw configuration that was from solar normal. So when deployed, we're in a biased allows for solar array wing, the greatest surface area configuration that was wings to be drawing power and powering up those this allows for integrity. The greatest surface area of the solar array wings to be drawing power and powering up those batteries of integrity. Battery buses that are of which inside cross-tie was enabled between the 4 batteries. However, for the perigee raise maneuver, the inside of Orion solar array wings will be put into a position. However, to take on the loads imparted by the ICPS solar array wings will be put into when they execute the 26-second burn. To take on the loads imparted by the solar array wings main in motion when they execute the 26-second reconfigured to point the C in the engine in the correct direction. The solar array wings being pointed forward, and the attitude is being reconfigured to point the engine in the correct direction. Those solar array wings being pointed forward. You're getting a live look inside the Artemis 2 mission flight control room. The team you see here oversaw the ascent. You're getting a live look inside the Artemis 2 mission integrity launching at flight control room. The team you see here oversaw the ascent. Now again, this room will be occupied 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with flight controllers shifting on 3 shifts Eastern Time. Now again, oversee 24/7 operations of Artemis 2 hours a day, 7 days a week, with flight controllers shifting on 3 shifts on NASA the NASA oversee 24/7 operations of Artemis 2 while in flight. And we'll be covering that around the clock live on as NASA we begin to wrap up our coverage YouTube here channel on NASA Plus. And we'll be covering that around the clock over to our colleagues as we begin to wrap up our coverage. To my colleagues, it was a pleasure to join the teams at the Kennedy Space Center. Before I do want to send it over to our historic launch at the Kennedy Space Center. Again, we're turning our attention to my colleagues. It was a pleasure to join the teams at the Kennedy Space Center. Our colleagues there, be a part of today's launch coverage. We'll see you again soon in Houston. Again, we're turning our attention to Mission Control Houston. And for now, we'll say farewell and thank you to our colleagues there for today's launch coverage. We'll see you again soon for Splashdown. This is Mission Control Houston, sending it back over to Megan and Nicole at the host
Kennedy Space Center. It was such an amazing sight to be a part of this historic mission that started right here Victor Glover, at Kennedy Space Center. And Jeremy Hansen begin their journey. We here at the Kennedy Space Center are about to wrap our broadcast. We will, of course, though, have 24/7 coverage with our colleagues at Johnson Space Center starting as soon as we sign off, so don't worry. You can follow along our broadcast. We will, of course, though, have 24/7 coverage with our colleagues at Johnson Space Center starting as soon as we sign off, so don't worry.
Yes, of course. You know, they just started.
Every minute
the launch was beautiful. This was a historic day. They're on their way back to the moon
I'll definitely be watching it. I'm sure you will too.
Yes, of course. You know, they just started, right? So we're excited to see the launch was beautiful. This was a historic day. They're on their way back to the moon for the first time in over half a century. We're excited to see what they've got a lot of work ahead of them. So we're excited to see what they have to do.
Very humbling, inspiring. It was really amazing to be a part of this, and I'm so glad that so many people joined along by either watching here in person or watching online. And of course, Nicole, thank you so much for sitting through this. Amazing to be a part of this. Questions, adding so much context and information that really brought a lot. And of course, Nicole, thank you so much for sitting through this, answering questions, adding so much context and information that really brought a lot. Thank you to you for watching at home. Tonight we didn't just launch a rocket, we launched the next chapter of human exploration. Thank you to you for watching at home. Now on their way back to the moon, launch a rocket with us. So thank you again for watching of human exploration. Our Artemis 2 crew now on their way back to the moon, and we're taking you with us. So thank you again for watching, and go Artemis 2. All 4 astronauts, and it appears all of them are undergoing their suit leak checks. Yes, a pre-flight tradition that we have seen with astronauts, flights, and it appears all of them are undergoing their suit leak who have just left. Yes, a pre-flight tradition that we have seen with our crewed flights. The card game. Here they are. NASA's Artemis 2 crew just taking their first steps outside for their historic test flight. Here they are. NASA's Artemis 2 crew taking their first steps outside for their historic test flight. Oh, this must feel so special to the crew to see all of these people here. Watching the crew and off they walk across the crew access arm, getting a beautiful view. So special to the crew to see all of these people here. In we go. The crew walk across the crew access arm, getting a beautiful view. Launch everybody system with their suits. So in we go.
3, 2, 1.
The closeout crew
ignition.
Has closed
and
the launch abort system hatch.
The crew of Artemis 2 now bound 3, for the moon to humanity's next great voyage ignition. And liftoff. The crew of Artemis 2 now bound for the moon. Humanity's next great voyage begins.
This is Mission Control Houston. Welcome back for our 24/7 coverage of the Artemis 2 mission. At this time, we are
this is
a
Mission
little
Control
more than
Houston.
1 minute
Welcome
from the
back
time
for
of
our
ignition
24/7
coverage
coverage
of the Artemis 2 mission. The Orion spacecraft
At this time,
integrity
we
has
are
been
a little
maneuvered
more
than 1 minute
into
from
the
the time
burn
of ignition
attitude
of the
is
pointed
pointed
in
in
the
the
right
maneuver.
direction, and the
Solar
time
arrays
the
are in a
Orion
in the
spacecraft
position to take
integrity
on the
has
loads
been
imparted
maneuvered
by the 26
into
second
the burn attitude is pointed in the right direction, and the solar arrays are in the position to take on the loads imparted by the 26-second burn. Now at 1 minute to the perigee raise maneuver. The teams here are part of the ascent team of the Artemis 2 perigee raise maneuver. Now getting our first views from one of the solar array wing cameras. The teams here are part of the ascent team of the Artemis 2 mission relay satellites. Now getting our first views from one of the solar array wing cameras as we are about over the tracking data relay satellites. Statute miles above the Earth. We are in a night pass just east off the coast. We are about Madagascar. A little more than 1,300 statute miles above the Earth. So we have, you can see the terminator off the coast, right, just west of Madagascar, the Philippines, and the west coast of Australia. So we have, you can see the terminator line, right, just west of the Philippines, and now we're just the west coast of Australia, where we'll start to get some sunlight again. We have ignition. Now we're just seconds away from the time of ignition. You can see the perigee raise maneuver from the main engine of the ICPS firing from the solar array wing. You can see the perigee raise maneuver from the main engine of the ICPS firing from the solar array wing. Standing by for confirmation of cutoff.
Integrity good, PRM, and 1 minute to teeter standover. Integrity good, PRM, and 1 minute to teeter standover. Outstanding.
Copy that. We see the same on board, and the sun is rising on integrity.
And with that first burn of the interim cryogenic propulsion system has been completed, and with that first burn on the right trajectory of the interim cryogenic propulsion system has been completed and put the crew on the right trajectory to get them to the moon.
Houston,
there are
integrity for toilet setup.
Yes, there was not an installed oxon inlet filter, even with empty oxone in the hose when I opened up the filter. An installed oxon inlet filter, even with empty oxone in the hose when I opened up the filter.
This is Mission Control Houston. Again, we had a good perigee raise maneuver that sets us on course to execute the next major burn. This is Mission Control Houston. Again, we had a good perigee raise maneuver just sets us on the orbit while we are in the next major burn. The apogee burn is quite a significant burn. Now, the perigee raise maneuver just adjusts the orbit while we are in low Earth orbit, but the apogee raise burn is quite a significant burn, just shy of 18 minutes long.
Integrity Houston, on TDRS West, White Sands is receiving data. Houston is not. We're still troubleshooting. Integrity Houston, on TDRS West, White Sands is receiving data. Houston is not. We're still troubleshooting.
That was Capcom Stan Love, part of the Ascent team here in Mission Control Houston. That was, we changed over Capcom Stan Love, part of the Ascent team, point to one of the tracking and data relay satellites at the expected time. We changed over to that time was updated one of the tracking and data relay 26 seconds of mission elapsed time going from TDRS East to TDRS West. That time was updated to 51 minutes 26 seconds of mission elapsed time going from TDRS East to TDRS West. Not seeing some of the data coming from Orion, coming from Integrity to TDRS so we're standing by to regain Mission Control the Houston, ability and troubleshoot some of the data coming from Orion, rationale as to coming from Integrity. So we're standing by to regain gaps the in ability our and data, troubleshoot some of the communications with the crew. Rationale as to why we are having some intermittent gaps in our data and communications with the crew. Now again, as the teams are troubleshooting.
Integrity Houston in the blind. We see good solar normal maneuver. ARB TIG is expected to be 45 seconds earlier than the pad. That's 1 hour, 4 solar normal maneuver. 9 seconds. ARB TIG is expected to be 45 seconds earlier than the pad. That's 1 hour, 46 minutes, 0, 9 seconds. No update to TIG yet.
Mission Control Houston, he used the term in the blind. That refers to as part of the data that we are not Houston. He used the term that we are not getting from the TDRS. That refers to as part of the data that we are not noting that we are not getting from that we may not be receiving communications from the crew West satellite, though they may be able to hear us. So noting that reporting understand that we may not be receiving communications from the crew. We do know that they may be able to hear us from the data we are receiving. Reporting that what the upper stage and Integrity we do know that maneuvered to solar normal from the data we are receiving, meaning that the orientation, the attitude, upper stage and Integrity have maneuvered to solar normal, the maximum amount of power. Meaning that the orientation, the attitude of the spacecraft is such that the solar arrays can draw the maximum amount of power.
Integrity Houston in the blind for Christina. Just before the TDRS handover, we heard your report about the lack of an oxone inlet filter. Integrity Houston in the blind for Christina. But please just before the TDRS handover, we heard your report about the lack of an oxone inlet filter. We copy that there is not one installed as expected, but please put in a new one.
Team here you see in this row, the Capcom console is NASA astronaut Stan Love. The voice that you're hearing from the team here you see in this row Houston up to the Capcom console. A Capcom voice NASA that you'll hear Stan Love throughout the mission as well. Voice that you're hearing next from the teams here in Mission Control Houston. Dr. Love to his right is a Capcom voice that you'll hear the Chief Training Officer as well. Next to and a voice that you'll hear from Dr. Love to his right Houston is Jackie Mahaffey, Flight Director Judd Training Officer for the Artemis 2 crew, and a voice that you'll hear from here in Mission Control Houston. Ascent Flight Director Judd Freeling is to through the ascent that happened today. And to the left of Judd Freeling is Flight Director Rick Henfling, part of the entry leading the teams through the ascent that happened today. And to the left of Judd Freeling is Flight Director Rick Henfling, part of the entry to prepare for here on console the splashdown nominal timeline for flight day 10.
Houston,
He'll be
in the
returning to
blind,
console on
we're
flight day
rebooting
9
some
to
ground
prepare
equipment to try to recover the link.
splashdown.
Expect 10
Nominal
minutes.
timeline for flight day 10.
Houston, in the blind, we're rebooting some ground equipment to try to recover the link. Expect 10 minutes.
This is Mission Control Houston. Again, the teams here are troubleshooting. This is Mission Control Houston. Lack of a forward link. Again, ability to communicate with the teams here are troubleshooting. Ryan. The teams are troubleshooting lack of a forward link to reset some ground equipment. An ability to communicate with the crew forward link. Ryan. Teams are troubleshooting at the time that we switched from some ground equipment to Tidris West. That happened. Forward that handover period started at was dropped at the time that we switched from Tidris East to Tidris West. That happened. That handover period started at Stan Love. Mission elapsed time of 51 minutes 26 in the blind, meaning that though we Capcom Stan Love
in the blind,
reporting some updates,
expecting an imminent automated swap to string 2 on board. Also, reminder we are still receiving good ICPS data. Expecting an imminent automated swap to string 2 on board. Also, reminder we are still receiving good ICPS data.
Again, Capcom Stan Love. Reporting to the crew in the blind, meaning there may be an ability for the crew to hear the calls again, from Capcom, the ground. Stan Love. We do know that we are not reporting able to hear in the blind, meaning there may be an ability for Orion. The crew to hear the calls from the ground. Just confirm that we are not able to hear from the upper stage any of the crew calls coming from that Orion. Allows us to understand and confirm that we are receiving data from the upper stage. Both spacecraft. And that allows us to understand and knowing that they are at the attitude and orientation of both spacecraft. And with the reboot, we're starting to get some data here. We'll confirm that the data knowing that they are at solar is good. And with the reboot, we're starting to get some data here. We'll confirm that the data we are receiving is good. With the regain of comm, we're starting to get some views aboard the Orion spacecraft.
Integrity Houston, voice check on Tidris.
With the regain of comm, we're starting to get some views aboard the Orion spacecraft.
Loud and
Integrity
clear.
Houston, voice check on Tidris. And we now have you the same. Good to hear your voice.
Loud and clear. Good to hear your voice.
And we now have you the same. Good to hear your voice. Right, we are still trying to understand whether the automated swap to S-band string 2 recovered comm for us or what was going on the ground. Right, we are still trying to understand whether the automated swap to S-band string 2 recovered comm for us or what was going on the ground. We gave you calls about an ARB TIG and an oxygen inlet filter. Did you copy them?
Copied all.
This is Mission Control Houston, though the solutions that were applied to regain the communications from integrity. This is Mission Control Houston, though which one worked. We do know that we are receiving that data were applied to regain. We're getting confirmation that is updating some of our telemetry that shows that not known which one worked. We do know that we are receiving data. Have been reconfirmation that is updating some of our telemetry that shows that the solar array as much power as possible. Have been reconfigured to the solar normal and awaiting the next burn. Again, drawing as much power as possible. And you just heard confirmed integrity was reporting some things in the blind, meaning we could not hear the crew respond to any of the calls that were going on. And you just heard confirmed, though Stan Love was reporting some things in the blind aboard integrity, not hear the crew respond to any of the calls that were going on Orion to Earth. Stan Love was did confirm from Reed Wiseman aboard integrity that they did hear all the calls
we plan to remain on S-band string 2.
Capcom Stan Love was reporting.
And integrity for comm. While we are sorting out the earlier comm loss, we plan to remain on S-band string 2.
Inhibited for right CCD.
Copy Quid 19.
Copy S-band string 2 and Quid 19 has been inhibited for right CCD.
Copy Quid 19.
This is Mission Control Houston. Commander Reed Wiseman working through his steps at this time in the timeline. This is Mission Control Houston. Mission Specialist Christina Cook, Commander Reed Wiseman working through his steps should be closing out some timeline. Procedures specialists Christina Cook activating some of the environmental control and life support systems, and again should be closing out some of those steps procedures from Capcom that were activating some of the environmental control and life support systems. So they did copy them, and again those steps any of the relayed from Capcom and Stan Lev were received by the crew, provided by Capcom. So they did copy them, and the launch and entry suits for Mission Specialist 1 and 2, that's Christina Cook and Jeremy Hansen, provided by per the timeline. The launch and entry suits for Mission Specialist 1 and 2, that's Christina Cook and Jeremy Hansen, per the timeline. The launch and entry suits for the Commander Reed Wiseman to doff or take off the suits will remain on until after a successful launch and entry suits for Commander Reed Wiseman is to oversee the successful burn there. Will remain on their configuring some of their successful equipment apogee raise burn configuration that's to oversee the successful burn ahead of the day's activities, configuring some of their covering a CCD cursor control device configuration that's needed well on their way ahead of the day's activities, a nominal timeline covering a CCD cursor control device, the communication link, and they're well on their way to ground equipment and changing the nominal timeline string, of course, addressing the communication which addressed the issue, and now we're getting full data from the ground equipment as well as the Orion spacecraft. String of communications which addressed the issue, and now we're getting full data from the ICPS as well as the Orion spacecraft.
Integrity Houston, questions for Jeremy and for Christina. Integrity Houston, questions for Jeremy and for Christina.
Stan, can you power on the toilet, and then we'll stand by for your words for Jeremy and Christina. Stan, can you power on the toilet, and then
toilet power up is in work. The questions are, can you confirm the HHP cam has been powered down? And then the question for Christina is whether the urine filter, that's the rubber part. The questions are, can you confirm the HHP cam has been powered down? And then the question for Christina is whether the urine filter, that's the rubber part, was installed, but just no beads connected.
Filter was installed, no beads.
Thank you.
And that's affirmative. The filter
and Stan,
was
we are
installed, no
wrapping up
beads.
PWD right now. Jeremy will get the HHB cameras after that. There was a tremendous amount of back pressure on all those settings. And Stan, we are wrapping up PWD right now. Jeremy will get the HHB cameras after that.
Copy.
There was
Thank
a tremendous amount of back pressure on all those settings, so it's taken a little bit of all the connectors, so it's taken a little bit of time.
Commander Reed Wiseman aware of the steps, the initial steps for Mission Specialist Christina Cook and Jeremy Hansen, working on some of the systems. Commander Reed Wiseman aware of the steps, the initial steps for Mission Specialist monitor Christina Cook and Jeremy Hansen of working on some of the systems inside, while the commander and pilot monitor the flight of Integrity.
Integrity Houston, toilet is powered, waste tank purged.
Some of the equipment inside needs to be activated by flight controllers here in Mission Control Houston. The activation of some of these necessary for some of the equipment inside needs to be activated on their first day here in mission control in orbit as part of the activation of some of these necessary for their trip on their first day in orbit as part of the Artemis 2 mission. The waste systems that are on board now that they're activated and purged. Christina Cook, Jeremy Hansen working on the potable water display. The waste systems that are on board dispenser now that they're activated and purged. Jeremy Hansen working on the potable water display to activate the equipment and start filling some bags as a dispenser. One of his initial steps is to activate the equipment and start filling some bags as a reserve inside of Integrity. So he's working through those steps. HHP camera was one of the internal cameras inside through the duration of Integrity, Ascent, and recorded into the flight computers. Camera was one that was captured through the duration of Ascent and recorded into the flight computers.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that helps you at all, Stan. But that whole time that you all had, seemed like you had a good forward link. We just had no return. We saw a good frame lock, and everything looked good. The only thing we did not have was a good ping. You all had, seemed like you had a good forward link. We just had no return. We saw a good frame lock.
That helps a lot, Reed. Thank you for that report.
The only thing we did not have was a good ping. I don't know if that helps you.
That helps a lot, Reed. Thank you for that report. Integrity Houston for SAWs. We saw the SAW 3 brake go into error position. We're confident engaged, but we saw more motion than we expected during the burn. We are cycling the brake on that SAW 3 brake go into error position. We're confident engaged, but we saw more motion than we expected during the burn. We are cycling the brake on that SAW.
Okay, Stan, we copy that. HHP cameras are off, PUP 1 switches are off, Stan.
Copy HHP and PUP, thank you.
HHP cameras are off, PUP 1 switches are off, Stan.
Copy HHP and PUP, thank you. Integrity Houston, starting thermal roll. Integrity Houston, starting thermal roll.
Integrity on toilet, step 6.7.
Go ahead for step 6.7.
Houston, integrity on toilet, step 6.7. Yes, during 6.7,
Go ahead for step 6.7.
Starting the water into the funnel. After a nominal startup, about 20 seconds after starting on its own, and I have a blinking amber funnel. After a nominal startup, the toilet shut down on its own, and I have a blinking amber fault light.
Copy, talking about it. And integrity for toilet, we're going to have to think about that for a while. In the meantime, CCUs are available in Alpha 2. And integrity for toilet, we're going to have to think about that for a while. In the meantime, CCUs are available in Alpha 2. Good config.
We copy, and I'll be returning the funnel to the cradle.
This is Mission Control Houston, a readback of some of the communications that occurred on Orion to Earth. We're now at, this is Mission Control Houston, a 1 hour, 17 minutes of mission elapsed communications that occurred on we got confirmation Orion to Earth. We're now at stage and 1 hour, 17 minutes of mission elapsed time. They are on the illuminated side of the Earth right now, upper stage and of integrity beginning just a little more than 1,000 statute miles. Illuminated side of the Earth right now. At an altitude thermal roll allows for even distribution just a little more than of heating from the statute miles. At that altitude, the thermal roll allows for even distribution of heating from the sun ahead of the apogee rays burn. At that altitude, in the meantime, mission specialist Christina Cook working on the activation of some ahead of environmental apogee ray systems and waste management systems. In the meantime, currently specialist Christina Cook working on the activation of some troubleshooting of the activation systems that she was going through. She'll gather some of the currently as teams on the ground analyze some troubleshooting of the activation steps that she was going through. She'll gather some of the backup waste management, assess how to address what was reported down that they have mission specialist Christina Cook on the fault light. Just as a precaution while the teams assess how to address what was reported down from mission specialist Christina Cook. Now at mission elapsed time of 1 hour 18 minutes, we are coming up on the post-launch press conference. Mission elapsed time of 1 hour 18 minutes. Center. We are coming up on subject matter experts have gathered to press conference and will address the Kennedy Space Center that just occurred, where subject matter experts and media will gather questions. As part of our continuous coverage plan, where we are streaming this mission 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, questions throughout the duration. As part of our continuous coverage plan, Artemis where we are streaming this mission 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, on this platform. Throughout the duration, the time of the beginning of the press briefing. The briefing scheduled to be 7 p.m. Central Time, this platform. 8 p.m. Eastern Time today. Of the beginning of the press briefing just about 6 minutes. Is scheduled to be 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time today. Post-launch press conference just about 6 minutes. While the
thermal roll complete, and a question for Christina for
post-launch press conference is.
Integrity thermal roll complete, and a question for Christina for toilet.
Epic just now. It's amazing to be at this altitude, and Christina's working hard. All right, Stan, just give us a minute, and the view of Australia was epic just now. It's amazing to be at this altitude, and Christina's working hard.
We also have a story about a water tank valve problem during powered flight. We saw an anomalous indication on the water. We also have a story about a water between water tanks problem during powered flight. We saw an anomalous indication on the tanks during the PWD checkout. We think that valve is closed. We are going to troubleshoot that. Based on the signature we saw with the tanks during the PWD checkout, we think that valve is closed. we are going to troubleshoot that going forward.
Quick recap, the thermal roll is complete distributing.
Dan, when you got Eclipse.N2H2O up, give me a call.
Quick recap, the thermal roll is complete distributing.
Dan, when you got Eclipse.N2H2O up, give me a call. We show that valve closed.
I'm looking at it.
That helps you.
That is also what we see, and that's exactly the valve we're looking at. Related to that, question for Jeremy. For the PWD checkout, did you check out the primary first or the secondary first? Related to that, question for Jeremy. For the PWD checkout, did you check out the primary first or the secondary first?
And Stan, Jeremy says primary first because he had trouble getting the secondary on, and I'm also ready to take your call. And Stan, Jeremy says
copy primary first. We appreciate that. Christina, for the toilet, can you please tell us what the status LED is doing? Copy primary first. We appreciate that. Or was doing when you saw the toilet, can you please tell us what the status LED is doing? Or was doing when you saw the fault?
It had been on per normal, and there was good suction, and then it turned off when the fault started blinking.
That's valuable information. Thank you.
And there was good suction, and then it turned off when the fault started blinking.
Teams on the ground continuing to troubleshoot the waste management systems aboard integrity. Now we'll continue to follow the mission here, continuing to troubleshoot the waste management systems aboard integrity. As the 4 astronauts work on the steps to activate some of the systems, and we'll continue to follow the mission here. About 3 minutes from now, 7 p.m. As the Central Time, 8 p.m. work on the steps to activate some of the systems and prepare for the apogee raise burn. That press briefing will happen 3 minutes from now, 7 p.m. coverage. Central Time, 8 p.m. While that Eastern, is happening, we'll start the press briefing to. The press briefing will happen on our 24/7 continue to cover the mission coverage and views while that is from the solar array wing. You can listen to aboard Orion to Earth loops and continue to cover the mission. Follow that views at our from the solar array wing live stream, also available Orion at NASA's YouTube channel, and you can follow that at our clean live stream, also available at NASA's YouTube channel. This is Mission Control Houston, passing 1 hour and 23 minutes of mission elapsed time into the Artemis 2 mission. This is Mission Control Houston, passing 1 hour and 23 minutes of mission elapsed time about into 800 statute miles over the Earth. Currently passing over Australia. Commander Reed Wiseman confirmed that about 800 over Australia, they were miles over the windows and see that view. Currently passing over an altitude. Commander Reed Wiseman higher than any of them that used to. Over Australia, they were able to peek out the windows and see that view from an altitude that is higher than any of them are used to.
Also for the solar array for GMC, indication we are taking channel 1 to unfiltered and originally set. It was like on. Also for the solar array, the engine lit for indication we saw earlier. We think that when the brake originally set, it was like now showing nominally, and that when the engine lit for PRM, it slipped 1 tooth.
Okay,
that brake is now showing
and
nominally.
I'm just curious. I feel like about a half an hour ago you took 1 to unfiltered in BFS. Is this nominal or okay, Stan? Yeah, we copy that, and I'm just curious. I feel like about a half an hour ago you took 1 to unfiltered in BFS. Is this nominal or did something happen? Okay, thanks. Copy.
Victor, this is nominal.
Okay, thanks. Copy.
Now 7 p.m. Central Time at a mission elapsed time of 1 hour 25 minutes. An update for viewers. We are continuing to cover now 7 p.m. Central Time at a mission elapsed time of 1 hour 25 minutes. An press conference scheduled for 7 p.m. We are continuing to current start time for that press conference is 7:05 p.m. Central Time, 8:05 p.m. Press conference scheduled for 7 p.m. The current start time for that press conference is 7:05 p.m. Central Time. We are expected to execute the apogee Eastern Time raise burn. During the conference, we're a little more than 20 minutes. We are expected to execute the apogee raise burn. We do know that the time of ignition has been updated. A little more than 20 minutes from the time of ignition of that burn. Time of ignition, and we do know that the time of ignition has been updated from the pad prior to liftoff. Predicted time of ignition. The current time of ignition is 1 hour 46 minutes. That was uploaded to the crew prior to liftoff of mission elapsed time. The current time of ignition is 1 hour 46 minutes. And 9 seconds. The duration of mission elapsed time at the pad was 17 minutes 52 seconds. Ahead of the execution of the burn, any changes in the duration will be reported to the crew was 17 minutes uploaded to ensure that the apogee raise burn ahead of the execution of the burn. Any changes in that duration will be reported to the crew 43,000 miles to ensure that the apogee raise burn goes as expected and puts them on the predicted trajectory. That trajectory being 43,000 miles 700. Higher 43,730. The crew of integrity passed the tracking and data relay satellites that are positioned about 23,000 miles high away from the Earth. Will take again. They're currently on crew of integrity past the tracking and data relay satellites that are positioned about 23,000 miles space away from the Earth. Again, they're currently on apogee west. Raise burn time of ignition again, and they will transition to 1 hour 46 minutes and 9 seconds of mission elapsed time. Raise burn time of ignition expected and will occur during the at 1 hour 46 minutes and 9 seconds of mission elapsed time. So as part of our 24/7 will occur during the briefing itself will overlap press with that particular milestone. So as part of our 24/7 on our 24/7 coverage, we won't necessarily briefing itself will overlap with that particular milestone. Loops to follow will be available on our 24/7 coverage. We won't necessarily stop our coverage. Similar to what you're seeing now, Orion to Earth solar array wings. Loops will be available on our communications between Capcom Stand Love here. That will show a view similar to what you're seeing now. You can listen from the solar array wings. The execution of the burn and any changes Capcom Stand Love here. When we come back from the press conference, listen as they expected about the execution of the burn and any changes around 8:05 p.m. Central Time. Come back from the press conference. We'll go ahead and recap any of the milestones that occurred around 8:05 to the press Central Time to answer questions Eastern that come from the press. We'll go ahead and recap any of the milestones that occurred and continue along on our 24/7 briefing to answer the questions that come from the press and continue along on our 24/7 coverage.
Houston integrity for CFC install. That is complete.
Copy CFC, thank you.
Houston integrity for CFC install. That is complete.
Copy CFC, thank you.
And Houston, just want to let you know, since we're running a touch behind timeline, we have not yet started suit doff for any of the forward crew members. We'll get to it in a bit. And Houston, just want to let you know, since we're running a touch behind timeline, we have not yet started suit doff for any of the forward crew members. We'll get to it in a bit.
Copy, thank you. Integrity Houston, updated ARB numbers when you're ready. Integrity Houston, updated ARB numbers when you're ready. And sorry, false alarm, still integrating on the ground. We'll be back with you shortly.
Stan, we are ready.
And sorry, false alarm, still integrating on the ground. We'll be back with you shortly. Roger.
Good practice call. Talk to you in a second.
This is Mission Control Houston.
Roger.
For those still with us, the press briefing that was scheduled to begin at 7:05 will begin shortly.
This is Mission Control
Houston. For those still with us, the press briefing
just
that was scheduled to begin at 7:05 we are able to transition to beginning will begin shortly. They're just getting set up and just stay tuned until we are able to transition to beginning. Teams on the ground are analyzing the time of ignition and what's called T-GO, the duration of the burn. At the time ahead of liftoff, the duration of the ground are analyzing the time of ignition and what's called T-GO, changes. The flight dynamics officer and his time ahead of liftoff, the duration of the burn are analyzing to make sure that what they are about to report to some changes. The flight dynamics officer and his support in the back rooms are analyzing to make sure that what they are about to report to the crew is rock solid.
Integrity Houston with new ARB numbers for real this time. Integrity Houston with new ARB numbers for real this time. ARB TIG, 1 hour, 4-6 minutes, 0-7 seconds. TIGO ARB TIG, 1 hour, minutes, 4-6 minutes, seconds, 0-7 seconds. TIGO is 1-8 minutes, 0-6 seconds.
Okay, Stan, we copy and have entered 1 hour, 46 minutes, 7 seconds for TIG, and TIGO, 18 minutes, 6 seconds. Okay, Stan, we copy and have entered 1 hour, 46 minutes, 7 seconds
we
for
also
TIG,
have an updated
and TIGO,
time for the
18
handover
minutes,
from
6
Tigers
seconds.
west to east. That is going to be over 6 minutes earlier than with that. We also have an updated time for the handover from Tigers west to east. 3 minutes. That is going to be over 6 minutes earlier than what's on your pad. You can expect that at MET 2 hours, 03 minutes, 04 seconds, 2:03:04.
For handover west to east. Thanks, Dan.
You're welcome.
2, 3, 4. For handover west to east. Thanks, Dan.
And Integrity, 2 minutes to maneuver.
PFE is reading 3, which is nominal.
Copy PFE. And Integrity, 2 minutes to maneuver.
PFE is reading 3, which is nominal.
Copy PFE. And Integrity, we are ready for the Eclipse power down per your execute note. And Integrity, we are ready for the Eclipse power down per your execute note.
All right, as we've continued to follow along on the mission, here in Mission Control Houston and on the Orion to Earth loops, we'll take you over to the beginning of the press briefing on the mission launch press briefing. Here in Mission Control Houston and on the Orion to Earth loops, we'll take you over to the beginning of the press briefing, the post-launch press briefing over at the Kennedy Space Center.
Integrity, MCC pulls go for ARB pending attitude and saws. Integrity, MCC pulls go for ARB pending attitude and saws.
Integrity. Houston, integrity for power down.
Go ahead.
Houston, integrity for power down. All right, we see the roll, Stan. And for power down, we believe our steps are complete. If we could get just some situational awareness on the DU brightness, we feel like we have them 50% we see the roll, down, but let us know. And for power down, we believe our steps are complete. If we could get just some situational awareness on the DU brightness, we feel like we have them 50% down, but let us know.
Checking. Integrity, we see DU3 right at center. We see DUs 1 and 2, a couple of clicks above center. We're checking power draw now. Integrity, we see DU3 right at center. We see DUs 1 and 2, a couple of clicks above center. We're checking power draw now.
Stan, and obviously when we go into eclipse, we can bring them down a bit further.
Roger.
Copy that, Stan, and obviously when we go into eclipse, we can bring them down a bit further.
Roger. And Reed, when we get into eclipse, we would like those extra clicks on DUs 1 and 2. And Reed, when we get into eclipse, we would like those extra clicks on DUs 1 and 2
down a touch, but we'll bring them down as far as we can when we get into eclipse.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, you got it. We did bring 1 and 2 down a touch, but we'll bring them down as far as we can when we get into eclipse.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Booster ignition and liftoff. The crew of Artemis 2 now bound for the moon. Humanity's next great voyage begins. And liftoff. The crew of Artemis 2 now bound for the moon. Humanity's next great voyage begins.
Roger, roll pitch.
Houston, now controlling the flight of integrity on the Artemis 2 mission.
Roger, roll pitch. Integrity,
Houston,
AMG high.
Integrity on the Artemis 2 mission. On time, passing 30 seconds into the flights.
Integrity, AMG high.
Target milestone. Mission control Houston, seeing good performance on time, passing space launch system core stage. Integrity passes 3 miles in altitude. Target milestone. Mission traveling more than 1,200 miles per hour main engines. Space launch system core stage.
Good evening and welcome to NASA's Artemis 2 post-launch news conference. I'm Bethany Stevens, Senior Advisor and Press Secretary, and I will be your moderator today. I am joined by Administrator Artemis 2 post-launch news Associate Administrator Amit Stevens, Senior Advisor and Press Secretary, and I will be your moderator today. Exploration System Development Mission Director Dr. Lori Glaze, and Director of Flight Operations Norm Knight. Acting Associate Administrator Isaac will give opening remarks, and then we will open the floor to questions. Director Lori Glaze, if you are dialing in to be with us here today, please press *1 to get in the queue. Administrator Isaac will give opening remarks, and then we will open the floor to questions.
Good evening, everyone.
If you are dialing in to be with us here today, please press *1 to get in the queue.
6:35
and with that,
p.m.
Administrator,
NASA Space Launch System rocket lifted off
Good
the
evening,
pad
everyone.
8.8 million
Today,
pounds
April
of thrust,
1st,
carrying the
2026,
Orion spacecraft new Artemis 2 crew out NASA Space Launch System rocket lifted off America's grand return. 8.8 million pounds of thrust, carrying the
about
Orion
51 minutes into
spacecraft
the flight
Artemis
during a
2
planned
crew
handover between
to Earth
satellites,
orbit,
the
and
Orion
beginning
spacecraft
America's
underwent
grand
a communications
to the
issue,
moon. Leading to a
now, about 51 minutes into the flight during a planned handover between satellites,
to the
crew
Orion
was being heard by the crew, but we could not hear the communications issue,
a brief period
leading
of time.
to a temporary partial
there were no
loss
issues
of
with the
comms.
vehicle itself.
The uplink from
Comms
Capcom
with the crew had been
was being
restored.
heard by the crew,
We're
but we could
actively
not hear the
working the
responses
issue, and we'll
for a
keep
brief
you
period of
informed.
time. There were no issues with the
Orion
vehicle
spacecraft
itself.
has successfully separated
Comms
from
with
the
the crew
core
have been
stage,
restored.
and its solar arrays
We're
have been
actively
deployed
working
as
the
planned,
issue.
and we'll keep
Soon
you
the crew will
informed.
execute the apogee raise
The
burn.
Orion spacecraft has successfully separated from the core stage,
and its solar arrays have been deployed as planned.
Injection.
Soon the crew will execute the apogee raise burn,
placing the spacecraft
NASA
into a
astronauts
stable,
Reed Wiseman,
high Earth
pilot
orbit
Victor
as we
Glover, mission
prepare for the
specialist
translunar
Christina Koch, and
injection
Canadian Space
and the
Agency
journey
mission
into
specialist
cislunar
Jeremy
space.
Hansen.
are safe,
NASA astronauts
secure, and they're in
Wiseman,
great spirits.
Pilot Victor Glover, mission
We will continue to monitor their health and
Canadian
status
Space Agency
as we
mission
move into the
specialist
next
Jeremy
phase
Hansen
of the
are
Artemis
safe,
2 mission.
they're secure, and they're in great spirits.
So after a brief
We will continue
54-year
to monitor their
intermission,
health and the status
NASA, as we move into the
is
next
back in the
phase
business of
the
sending
Artemis 2
astronauts
mission
to the moon.
We
So
have
after a
arrived at
brief
this point through a
54-year
sustained
effort
effort
and national
NASA
commitment and the work of thousands
back in
across
the
the
business of
agency,
sending astronauts
our industry
to the moon.
partners, and our
We
international
have arrived at this
allies.
point through a sustained effort
I want to
and national
personally thank the
commitment
ground crews
and the work of
pad
thousands
controllers,
across the
entire
agency,
workforce here at
our
Kennedy
industry
Space Center.
partners, and
This
our
mission
international
belongs
allies.
as much to you as it does
I
to
want
the
to
crew.
personally thank the ground crews,
The crew is
pad
now
controllers,
in the
entire
capable
workforce
hands
here at
of
Kennedy
Mission
Space
Control
Center.
Houston.
This mission
The Johnson
belongs
Space
as
Center,
much to you as
where
it
teams
does
will
to the
guide
crew.
Orion through each phase of the mission with
The
the
crew
same
is now
discipline and
in the
precision
capable
that
hands
has brought us
of
to
Mission
this moment.
Control Houston. The Johnson
certainly
Space
been
Center,
here before.
where teams
We
will
know the
guide Orion
challenges
through each
ahead.
phase of the mission
We
with
have
the
a lot
same
of
discipline
checkouts
and
to get through
precision
before
that has
TLI.
brought us to this moment.
When, if all goes well,
We've certainly been
everything
here before. We know
is
the
go.
challenges ahead.
Artemis 2
We have
will
a
be
lot of
moonbound.
checkouts to get through before TLI.
You have our commitment to keep the
And
public
when,
as
if all
informed
goes
as
well,
possible on this
everything
historic mission
is go.
And we will celebrate when
Artemis
this crew
2 will be
We will
moonbound.
hold our celebration until this crew
You have our
is under
commitment to keep the
parachutes
public
and
as informed
splashes
as
down
possible on this
off the West
historic
Coast of the
mission.
United States.
And we will celebrate when this
So
crew
with that, we will
hold
open
our
this up to
celebration until this
questions,
crew
and we
is
will
under
start here
parachutes
in the
and
room. If we
splashes
have any
down
takers, we'll
off
start
the
right
West
up
Coast
here.
of the United States.
So with that, we will open this up to
Congratulations
questions,
to
and we
all
will
of you
start
on
here
a
in the room. If
successful
we have any
launch so
takers,
far.
we'll start right up here.
My name is Jim Siegel. I'm with Florida Media Now. And I'm Congratulations curious to about
all of
when
you on a
the
successful launch so
astronauts
far.
will have their first
Um,
meal.
my name's Jim Siegel.
on
I'm with
this
Florida
mission,
Media
and
Now. And I'm curious
secondly,
about when
is somebody
the
on the
astronauts will
Earth
have
here,
their first meal
back in
on this
Houston
mission
or somewhere.
and
keeping track of what they
secondly,
eat during this entire
is somebody
mission
on the Earth here
and
back
how do they
in
go about
Houston
doing that?
or
Do they
somewhere,
tell them what to eat, or
keeping
they
track
kind
of
of
what they
select what they
eat
want
during this
do you
entire
think?
mission? And
Well, let's see.
and
I'll
how
jump
do they
in
go
on this
about
one.
doing that? Do they tell them what to eat, or
Well,
they
what I'll
kind
tell
of
you
select
is
what
they do have
want?
planned meals.
What do you
Okay,
think?
so they have a planned
Well,
meal
let's see.
today.
I'll
I'll tell you they're very jump in busy. on this one. So Ascent Day is
what I'll
very
tell
tough.
you
It's
is they
tough
do have planned
physiologically.
meals,
Okay, so
and
they
it's
have a
tough from a
planned
workload issue
meal
as
today.
well.
I will
And
tell you they're
so,
very busy. This timeline
so
between
Ascent
now and when the
Day
crew goes to
is
sleep,
very tough.
so
It's tough
you need to feel
physiologically.
about 8:30
tough
is
from a
pretty
workload
packed.
issue
They're
as
going to
well.
snack,
And
so
they
this
probably
timeline
have
between
some
now and when the crew goes to
prepositioned
sleep.
meals. I know they
so
did in
you're
their
gonna need to
flight
have about
suit.
8:30. Some of the
is pretty
snacks that
packed.
they're going to snack. Can
they
use if they
probably
need
have
some
but I will
prepositioned
also tell you
meals. I know they
that
did
flight
in
day
their
one and
flight day
suit,
two. You might not
some of the
feel
snacks
like
that they
eating
can,
a lot, and
can
that's
use
just
if they
part
need.
of it. Your
But
your
I
body
will
is
also tell you
acclimating
that
to
flight day
zero
one and
G.
flight
Your
day two,
you might not
physiology
feel like eating
is
a lot. Transitioning from a 1G environment,
and that's just
to
part
zero
of it.
Your
Your
body is
and it's-
acclimating.
it takes
to
a little
zero
bit
G
of
adapting.
physiology.
So right now they're working
is
transitioning from a 1G
they are,
environment to zero.
doing what
G,
they need to do.
and they sound
it
great
takes a
on the
little
loops. That
bit
was really a
of
good
adapting
signal to
so
us.
right
that,
now they're
that
working
they're
hard.
feeling well. But
They
just know
are,
that that's part of the equation.
doing what they need to do.
You know,
They
they
sound
get on
great
orbit.
on the loops.
As
That
far
was
as
really
the
a
food
good
being
signal
tracked to us,
yes,
that,
we have
that
a
they're
food
feeling well.
lab, and we have.
But just know that that's part of the
folks
equation
at the Johnson Space
you know,
Center
when they get on
tracking
orbit.
what they
as far
eat,
as the
the
food being
nutrition,
tracked,
yes,
the
we have
calories,
a food lab, and we have.
It makes a difference.
Folks
they do this
at
on
the
Artemis.
Johnson
They do
Space
it on
Center
Space Station
tracking
as well.
what they
so
eat,
we're well
the
versed in
nutrition,
that. We want to
the
make sure that they're
calories,
healthy. And we also
it
want to
makes
make
a
sure we
difference.
know
They
what
do
they're
this on
doing,
Artemis,
what
they
they're
do it on
eating,
Space
so we
Station
can
as
also
well.
track
So
that.
we're well versed
make
in
sure
that.
that they don't
we
need
want to
any
make sure that
supplements or
they're healthy.
anything additional. And we also want to make sure we know what they're doing, what they're
We'll head
eating,
over
so
to
we can also
Joey.
track that and make sure that they don't need any supplements or anything additional.
We'll head over to Joey.
Thanks, guys, and congrats on a clean launch so far. Jared, or whoever wants to answer, how were you able to resolve the communications issue? And do you have any guesses as to what might have caused that?
Congrats on the clean launch
was
so
there
far.
any part of the mission
Jared,
so far that everyone's to answer? How were you able to resolve the communications issue? And do you have any guesses as to what might have caused that? And was there any part of the mission so far that appeared off nominal, or is everything
on the comms issue? And I don't know, there may be someone here that has a little more detail than I do of having to run around quite a bit, but I think they're still looking into trying to really understand exactly what was going on there. But it's restored, which is important. I think they're still looking into trying to really understand exactly what was going on there. But it's restored, which is important.
Ground configuration, you gotta get that right. So hopefully that's what it is. We'll chase it down. But they were Teeters West able to recover. Sometimes that's squirrely intermittent forward and return configuration. You gotta get that right. So hopefully that's what it is. We'll chase it down. But they were able to be able to recover recover a couple minutes. So they had intermittent forward and return links, so the burns that they needed on board it was never an issue. We had a controller issue with the toilet when they spun it up, so we got to work through that. That's going to take maybe a few hours to troubleshoot. So there was also a water tank controller issue with the toilet when they spun it up, so we got to connect through the two gangs of tanks. Maybe a few hours. It's supposed to be open to ensure maximum flow. There was also a water tank valve. There's 4 water tanks in Orion. There's a crossover valve that connects the two gangs of tanks. It's supposed to be open to ensure maximum flow. It was on Artemis when we had a lasting current limiter failure on the piece of electronics. It's transient failure when it gets exposed to radiation. And then they took one hit of those. We took about 24 of those during lasting current limiter failure on the piece of electronics. It's transient failure when it gets exposed to radiation. We're just getting started. They took one hit of those. We took about 25 of those during Artemis 1. Again, normal, the onboard fault detection cleans that up, but that's, we're just getting started, Joey.
Crew interaction, right? And so we anticipate to have a lot of these. That's what we're here for. Exactly this, trying to test out all of the things that require the crew interaction. Right? And so
they're going to stay in space.
We anticipate to have a lot of these. That's what we're here for. Work through them.
Sawyer.
Apogee rays burn. We're go. So
thank you, Sawyer Rosenstein, NSF. I noticed that the slide wire baskets happened to deploy during launch. Is that something that was expected? And can you give any initial reports, at least what you've seen from the cameras, of how the mobile launcher is doing, the hope to be able to quickly turn it around? Is that something that was expected? And can you give any initial reports, at least what you've seen from the cameras, of how the mobile launcher is doing, given the hope to be able to quickly turn it around?
So otherwise they take the
something on the baskets. I can talk about the turnaround. So I can tell you, on the mobile launcher, our team has already been looking at a lot of the imagery that we have that was taken both during and after, and assessing that, trying to get the condition. We've got teams that already been looking at a lot of the imagery that we have that was taken, a real look both during and after. Some of the good things that we've seen, and assessing that, trying to get the condition. One of the issues we had was that the water that was supposed to be spraying down the launch pad to take a real look. Some of the good things that we've seen that didn't happen. We saw one of the issues we had was that the water that was supposed to be spraying down the launch pad, so remove some of the there were some issues there that didn't happen. We saw a lot of corrosion. We don't have those corrosion issues. Working, so things were getting washed down. We're still also going to remove like after Artemis 1, like the elevator doors were blown off. We haven't seen to make sure we don't have those corrosion issues. We're optimistic, but we got to get out to the pad. We got to look. Artemis 1, like the elevator doors were blown off. We after Artemis 1, trying to harden the system so that we can turn it around faster. We got to get out to the pad. We got to look. There will be some items that will need to be after Artemis 1, trying to harden the pretty violent environment. We can turn it around faster. But we're hopeful that that's minimized. There will be some items that will need to be replaced. We'll definitely let you guys know where we stand and how quickly we think we can get it turned around. But we're hopeful that that's minimized, and we'll, as soon as we have more information on that, we'll definitely let you guys know where we stand and how quickly we think we can get it turned around. Thanks.
Lauren Grush with Bloomberg. I just wanted to get a gut check on how we're feeling about the upcoming proximity and ops operation. Do we have any concerns with that teachers delay, I just wanted to get a gut check on how we're feeling about the upcoming proximity and ops operation. Do we have any concerns with that teachers delay, or is that not an issue for that?
On track, ready to go. Victor Glover's going to be flying it. Reed's going to be working the procedure with him.
Haven't heard anything that's keeping us from that.
Cross-checking, and Jeremy and Christina are going to be looking out the windows. Glover's going to be cross-checking. Reed's using cameras and imagery with him, and it should be cross-checking. And Jeremy and Christina are going to be looking out the windows, also spotting, cross-checking, using cameras and imagery, and it should be beautiful.
From Ad Astra Magazine, National Space Society. Just wondering if the astronauts reported what the ride was like to orbit. I know with the space shuttle, from Ad Astra Magazine and National Space Society. Just wondering if the astronauts reported what the ride was like to orbit. I know with the space shuttle, it was a pretty rough ride until there was SRB
when MECO happened, immediately they were getting prepped to do their perigee raise maneuver. That's critical. Otherwise, they come back. I know we will get a report again. So they got MECO happened, immediately they were working to get their spacesuits off, raise maneuver. That's critical. Otherwise, they come back to Earth, which we don't want them to burn. So they got that. So now they're working to get their suits off. So they are very busy. Now later today, I anticipate they will call down and give us a full brief as to how the Proxox demo went, their suits off. So they are very busy. And later today, I anticipate they will call down and give us a full brief this massive rocket, how the Proxox demo went, how the ride uphill went, and I personally can't wait to hear the comparison between this massive rocket and the shuttle.
Micah.
Thanks, Bethany. Mike Maidenberg, Wall Street Journal. Maybe for the administrator, I'd like to ask you, I know we're early on here, how you're thinking about success for this mission, defining success. Mike Maidenberg, Wall Street Journal. A lot of tests ahead. Maybe for the administrator, I'd like to ask you, I know we're early on here, how you're thinking about success for this mission, defining success. A lot of tests ahead. Thanks so much.
Well, to me, success
what happens
is
if you don't kind of meet that standard as
in the water safely after a 10-day mission duration. To me, success is undershoots there. I think we're in the water safely after good Eclipse data. We've 10-day mission duration with crew on board, so that's pretty important. I mean, understanding the Orion spacecraft. I think we're right now we're already getting good Eclipse data. We've never flown Orion with crew on board, so that's pretty important. I mean, understanding the Orion spacecraft. Every day we're getting data. It says mentioned from the get-go. This is a test mission for sure. No crew have ever ridden Orion with a lander. We keep gathering data over the every day we're getting data. It says it was mentioned from the get-go. This is a test mission for sure. In the water safely, and we'll start working on gathering data over the next 10 days. We'll share updates, but we'll call it success when they're in the water safely.
Sorry if I missed it. I just wanted to check in on the status of the perigee and apogee burns. Are those both finished at this point? And then I also wanted to check. Sorry if I missed it. I just wanted to check in on the status of the perigee and apogee burns. Are those both finished at this point? And then I also wanted to check the best way to explain to the audience why we're doing that apogee raise maneuver and why we go into that higher orbit. Thanks so much.
The apogee raise burn should have already happened. That should have been happening while we sat here. They were getting ready as we were walking in. That was done pretty quickly, as you heard. And if you want to talk, the apogee raise burn should have already happened. That should have been happening while we sat here. They were getting ready as we were walking in.
Miles, give or take,
and then
of
if
the
you
Earth,
want to talk
25,000. So it's going to a higher Earth orbit. Pretty elliptical. That's getting us everything we do is getting us set up for the translunar injection burn. The Earth, so 25,000. It's getting these burns. It's pretty elliptical. Converging. That's getting us everything we do is getting us set up for the translunar injection burn. We got to make sure we have a redundancy. These burns. We got to make sure these burns go off. All converging down to what we get TLI. So we got to get the inconsistent exactly where it needs to be. We got to make sure we have a redundancy. We got to make sure these burns go off where they should go off. Off we go. And get Orion. That takes us really configured exactly where it needs to be. So when it comes around, it's a real big commit. It's time for the translunar injection burn. About that. Off we go tomorrow. And that takes us really.
Not only since it's outbound to the moon, but it also sets us up for the gravity assist that brings us back. So we are set all the way.
Tomorrow, yes.
Once we make that burn. Not only sends us outbound to the moon, but it also sets us up for the gravity assist that brings us back. So we are set all the way.
With the Epoch Times. Thank you all so much. Something that hasn't really talked about is that the Space Launch System predates the Artemis program. Hi, TJ Musco with the Epoch Times. Thank you all so much. 15 years. Something that hasn't really talked about is that the Space Launch System predates the Artemis program. Finally going all the way back to 2011. Launch with the human crew on board. 15 years. Really invested in this, and just how does it feel to finally see it?
Like I said, we're focused on the
launch with the human crew on board.
Next 10 days. But I mean, I'll tell you, I'm incredibly proud of the folks that worked on this machine for as long as they did. Next 10 days. One thing we didn't talk about earlier was, one of the big objectives. I'll tell you, I'm incredibly proud of getting the folks that worked on this machine and getting for as long as they did. Standards and getting one thing we didn't talk about earlier was up to the standard for crewed flight. That's a big, getting the organization, complicated mission qualification standards, and getting organization to a mindset of rigor up to the thinking about risk in the right way to fly. That's a big, even though the mission and making sure that the way we've moving the entire organization to a mindset of resilience, thinking about risk in the right way to fly crew is a big deal. I mean, and making sure that the way we've gotten the machine configured for the guys that are out there, the resilience and the reliability. It's a big celebration and launch control. So it takes time. The rocket guys can go out and play now, but the spacecraft guys got a lot of homework. It's for the guys who are out there, for them, it's a big celebration and launch control. For the rocket guys can go out and play now, but the spacecraft guys got a lot of homework. So they're going to go work on that. But yeah, for them, I can see it on their faces.
Jeff Faust, Space News. During the countdown, we heard controllers working through a few issues, one with the flight termination system, one with the launch abort system battery, and it sounded like there was a brief telemetry dropout. During the countdown, we heard controllers working through a few issues, one with the flight termination system, one with the launch abort system battery, and it sounded like there was a brief telemetry dropout. I wonder if you could provide a little bit more details about those issues and how you resolved them relatively quickly.
That we can get a signal from the range to the machine and then back. Jeff, the FTS issue was we weren't able to close that end test. We typically have to confirm that we can get a signal from the range to the machine, and they swap to a different. We weren't getting receiver, which is slightly different that entire heritage, but has the same fundamental the range algorithms on it, and they were able to switch over to that and able to confirm a good receiver, which is a slightly different, which is really clever heritage, but we had thought about fundamental getting a algorithms on it, and they were able to switch over to that and able to confirm a good Patrick quickly signal, which is really clever. They were able to fix it on the fly. We had thought about that was good, and once we knew we could confirm the box that we had in the VAB and shipping that over, then we didn't need that Patrick quickly receive. We don't need to do that test more than once. Just we just need to verify the command. Once we knew we could confirm, so once we confirmed that that command was there, then we didn't need that risk. Receive. We don't need to do that test more than once. We just need to verify the commands. We had a battery, so two batteries, several temperature sensors on both batteries. We had one poke out of family. We want to make sure all of them are tracking within certain limits. We had a battery, so two batteries, we could confirm given the temperature sensors on both batteries, where they are in the battery. We had one poke out of family. We want to make sure all of them are tracking within certain limits because there was an incredible physics-based explanation of the temperature sensors on where they are in the battery. It was in the battery magnitude off scale reading was instrumentation. Because there was an incredible physics-based explanation for why the major issues. But again, the team, this is what the training was the order of magnitude off scale high from the rest, to go into those things and knock them out quickly. So that was two of the major issues. But again, the team, this is what the training is for. This is what the practice is for. Is to go into those things and knock them out quickly. So
I noticed there was a lack of public address announcing outside, and there was a lot of going back and forth when we realized there were some issues, and we had to go back inside to find out. I noticed there was a lack of public address announcing outside, and there was a lot of going back and forth when we realized there were some issues, and we had to go back inside to find out, or we had to have our phones. Why was there no public address system available with loudspeakers outside?
We're not sure what issue you're talking about the public address. I'm not sure what you're referring to. Okay. We're not sure what issue you're talking about the public address.
And I thought that was a lacking.
Okay.
We'll take a look into
available to people outdoors.
I wasn't aware that happened.
And I thought that was a lacking.
So thank you for that information. That's new, and we'll definitely look into it.
We'll take a look into it.
We'll go right back here.
I wasn't aware that happened. So thank you for that information. That's new, and we'll definitely look into it.
We'll go right back here.
Sky News. Administrator Isaac Eggman, as a fellow astronaut, what were your feelings watching your crew rising above Pad 39B? Administrator Isaac Eggman, as a fellow astronaut, responsibility what were your feelings watching as they head further into space? Rising above Pad 39B, and do you feel that extra sense of responsibility for the crew as they head further into space?
I guess my perspective in it that I don't know. It's certainly felt far less stressful to be strapped into the rocket. I guess my perspective in it that here on Earth. So it's definitely had those feelings quite a bit. It's far less stressful to be strapped into the rocket. You drive a lot of confidence from the process that leads up to this moment. So literally, definitely had those feelings quite a bit across NASA, all our contractors, all our partners. A lot of confidence for the process that leads up to this moment. This is what literally the Army was really honestly going through my mind through NASA. All the testing that goes into the integrated testing, the flight readiness review, everything that goes into a flight readiness review was really honestly going through my mind through it. All the testing that goes into it, the integrated testing, the flight readiness that have been training for years. Everything that goes into a flight readiness confidence to undertake you have this mission, truly especially knowing the implications there that have been training for years on this. That gives America the confidence to undertake the moon. And this mission, especially knowing incredibly important mission, certainly part of a much bigger program, but it was relieved. This is America and our partners' confidence we have in we're trying to do here at NASA and everyone who contributes to it. Incredibly important mission. Certainly felt the pressure of it, but it was relieved. Based on the confidence we have in the team here at NASA and everyone who contributes to it.
Frédéric Castel with France 24.
We'll come right up here.
First, of course, congratulations to NASA for the grand return to the moon. Frédéric Castel with France 24. I have this question that asks me constantly in Europe and in the States. In the 60s, NASA was using just the slide rule to go to the moon. I have this question that asks me constantly in Europe and in the States. In the 60s, NASA was using just the slide rule. But what happened in 50 years? And they could launch almost so difficult to make it again. What has changed? Of course, they had more money probably, but what happened in 50 years? Is it
for
so
sure,
difficult
we knew
to make it again?
It's a very fair question. I know a lot of people ask it, not just in your country, but here in the United States. Certainly, financial resources are part of the equation. It's a very fair question. I know a lot of people ask it, not just between your country, but here in the United States. Certainly, financial resources are part of the equation. NASA's budget, if I recall, was to be very honest with you, I think competition is a factor in this as well. Budget during the space race, about it's a great way to today. And I mean, to be very honest with you, I think competition is a factor in this as well. Concentrate on something extremely challenging, and that's what we did in the 1960s. And I think with absent some competition, we focused a lot on partnership and concentrate on something extremely challenging, and that's what we did in the 1960s. And I think with absent some competition, we focused a lot on partnerships and competition now. All that we could do collectively to concentrate our resources science and discovery, but competition can be a good thing. We certainly have a great competition now across the NASA workforce. That's why you're seeing us start to concentrate our resources back to our stakeholders and back to the Congress and the administration came here with a great coalition to witness across the NASA workforce. Our contractors, because they know we have partners that have come together. And our stakeholders and this one's going Congress and the administration close. And I think as a result, you're going to see launch a lot more progress because they know we have competition. And when this was originally conceived under Constellation, and I think as a result, you're going to see a lot more progress, more so than you have in the when we're going to bring this was originally conceived under Constellation.
We're going to take a couple of phone bridge questions for just a moment. Reminder that you can join by pressing *1 to get into the queue. We're going to start with Will Robinson Smith from Phone Bridge questions for just a moment. Reminder that you can join by pressing *1 to get into the queue. We're going to start with Will Robinson Smith from Spaceflight Now.
Upcoming TLI burn tomorrow. Hi, thank you, Bethany. During the congratulations everyone on a good mission so far. Conduct a poll on readiness to proceed into the TLI tomorrow. And what are the main criteria that you'll be assessing to make that final determination? Conduct a poll on readiness to proceed into the TLI.
Actually happens about the time that launch happens. So it's 1 day into the mission. So tomorrow, the TLI burn actually happens about the time that launch happens. Obviously, those burn times can change. 1 day into the mission. So tomorrow, before tomorrow, Eastern time. But what are the teams looking for before TLI? We're looking to make sure that the life times can change. So check vehicles healthy, the life support systems have been checked out. But what are the teams looking ready to go? TLI. We're looking to make sure that those are functional because once we commit to TLI, they have the life support systems, and so we want to make sure. So that's why they're ready to go. We spend a day checking out the systems. Those are functional because once we commit to TLI, they have to function. Shake, rattle, and roll. And so we want to make sure. So that's why you saw that today. We spend a day checking out the systems. What that does to the systems. Systems are performing, very well. Shake, rattle, and roll. We anticipate that they continue to. You saw that today. Track record on them, and you can imagine before we do that. We also want to make sure we have redundancy in the system. We anticipate that they continue to. We want to get some track record on them before we do things. We also want to make sure we have redundancy in the system. So that's what the mission control team in Houston will be doing tomorrow. Jeff Radigan and his team, those type things. As the lead flight director will be on that TLI mission. So that's what the mission control team in Houston trained for will be doing tomorrow. Jeff Radigan and his team closely in conjunction with the engineering team, the mission evaluation well into that in Houston. Well versed on it. Engineers have the intricate knowledge. They work very closely in conjunction with the engineering team, the mission evaluation crew in Houston. To make sure engineers that have the intricate knowledge of Orion come together with the operations team and together they work with the crew. But it always comes down to make sure that the vehicle safety and mission objectives doing what we want to and accomplishing the mission objectives that we need to. But it always comes down to crew safety, vehicle safety,
there will also be a meeting of the mission management team that's led by John Honeycutt. I think many of you have seen before, and they'll be meeting tomorrow afternoon. There will also hear all of the results from the mission management team that's led by John Honeycutt. Last day, who I think in preparation to make the decision on whether or not we tomorrow afternoon to hear all of the results from what's happened over the last day.
We will
in
next
preparation
go right
to make
back
the
here to
decision
Manuel.
on whether or not we proceed with the TLI burn.
Thank you so much. Manuel Masante with
We
Exploración
will
Espacial.
next go right back here to
the
Manuel.
CubeSats are going to be deployed like 5 hours into the flight. Is there any chance we're going to see live images of the deployment? I understand that the CubeSats are going to be deployed like 5 hours into the flight. Is there any chance we're going to see using the live images of the deployment? And then on its way to the moon, when is the crew?
The second question was to do when they start doing the manual as far as the flywheel machine. Sorry, thank you. The exercise machine. The second question was to do when they start doing the manual. I can answer the CubeSats.
flywheel
machine. Sorry, thank you. The exercise machine. So installed in the Orion stage adapter, which is actually I can answer the part of the CubeSats. The upper stage. So the CubeSats are once Orion separates from the Orion stage adapter, which is actually a part of the upper stage. Once Orion has cleared and we're away, Orion separates from the upper stage. We'll do the parks to take images of them, and once they are deployed, once Orion has cleared and their own plans for being able to communicate back down to Earth to take images of them. They have their own communication plans, so we'll start to get information back from those individual have their own plans for being able to communicate back down to Earth to various ground stations. They have their own communication plans, so we'll start to get information back from those individual CubeSats. So that's kind of the plan and the path forward on the CubeSat deployment and what you can expect.
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Take one more question from the phone bridge from Christopher Mick of the Hudson Star Observer.
Media availability with Jeremy Hansen. Thank you very much. He made mention of if all the teams the mission launched on April 1st, they would be experiencing media availability with Jeremy Hansen. I just want to follow up on that. He made mention where that would be happening in the mission timeline, and if there would be any, they would be experiencing a lunar eclipse. That's just going to be on the. I just want to follow up on that if that's where that would be happening in the mission timeline, and if there would be any.
There'll be the availability of what kind of real time. I'm not sure what we'll have there, but the crew will get to observe the eclipse. This is pretty unique. It's kind of interesting. It actually doesn't happen. I'm not sure what we'll have there, but the communication during that eclipse time. Observe during the eclipse. This is pretty unique. It's kind of interesting. It actually doesn't happen when they're out of calm, so they will be having communication during that eclipse time. So they've been having a lot of science lessons over the last couple of days to learn about that. And the eventuality that we actually launched today, so they're prepared to make those. They've been having a lot of science lessons over the last couple of days. It'll be pretty to learn about that and the eventuality that we actually launched today. So I'm sure we'll get some images down at some point. I just don't know if they'll be live. Observations. It'll be a pretty cool and unique opportunity. I'm sure we'll get some images down at some point. I just don't know if they'll be live.
For the administrator, there have been a lot of comparisons of Artemis 2 to Apollo 8. A pioneering mission, daring that sent astronauts on an untested cruise vehicle around. There have been a lot of comparisons, and I'm very curious, given last week's ignition event, and how that mission daring that sent astronauts on an untested cruise vehicle around the moon. And I'm very curious, given last week's ignition event, where you see Artemis 2 in that audacious and basically the importance of riding on this mission before you can make that next step for the moon in a stepping stone approach way, where you see Artemis 2 in that plan.
So, I mean, no matter, I guess how you slice it, it's the opening act for sure. I think there are areas where we're clearly combining, Apollo 7, Apollo 8 no matter, I guess how you slice it, it's the opening act for sure. I think there are areas where we're clearly combining. There has been, to Apollo 7 earlier, there's been substantial progress into a single mission. Half century, we have tools which we should be able to do. There has been, to be able to get some earlier, there's been substantial progress efficiencies over the last half century. We have tools. But I would say that what we learn from this for sure, we'll get some how we think about our mission efficiencies. There's certainly big picture objectives in that. But I would say that what we learn from this for sure, we'll test that out in Earth orbit before how we think about Artemis 3. Now, there's certainly big picture objectives. But if there are things that we don't see, maybe there's comm-related issues, and we're going to try and fix those. Test that out and validate that on the next mission as well. So before we go to the moon with it, but if there are things that we don't see, maybe it is comm-related issues, and we're going to try and fix those. And then we're going to want to validate that on the next mission as well. So, Artemis 3 comes around, we're going to learn a lot about the integrated operations that we'll want to validate and ensure is rolled into subsequent missions. But yes, this should be a philosophy that we take across all of the grand efforts that we are pursuing right now to not necessarily jump to missions. But yes, this should be a philosophy that we take across all of the grand efforts that we are pursuing right now to not necessarily jump to the ultimate desired state, but to build up to it.
Hi, Richard Hollingham, BBC Future. Related to Apollo 8 in a way, really. I just wondered what plans had gone into a new Hi, Richard Hollingham, BBC Future. A lot has gone into the aspirational nature related to Apollo 8 in a way, really. Have you I just wondered what plans had gone into a new Earthrise image. A lot has gone into the aspirational nature.
I do know that the teams have been looking at what the opportunities might look like. They've looked at the different launch dates, and so I know that they're really going to try. I do know that the teams have been looking at what the opportunities might look like. They've looked at the different launch dates, and so I know that they're really going to try to make that happen. I can't give you a confirmation on that yet, but stay tuned. We're going to do everything we can to try and make that happen.
Equipped with additional
camera
imagery capturing, equipment. So
We're going to do everything we can to try and make that happen.
Thank you. I'm from Japanese news agency Kyodo News. My question is to the administrator. The United States and China I'm from Japanese news agency Kyodo News. My question is to the administrator. Today's the United States and China are competing over moon development.
Well, it's certainly an incredibly important step. I mean, this is the first crewed mission into this environment in more than a half century. It's certainly on a rocket that has never incredibly important step. I mean, this is the first spacecraft crewed mission into this environment in more than a half century. We're going to learn an awful rocket that has never flown human beings before. So along with the spacecraft, this is the beginning. It's incredibly important. I can tell you, having had an opportunity to speak with the Artemis subcrew after this is the beginning. We talked a lot about what we wound up sharing. I can tell you, having had an opportunity to speak with the Artemis missions, accelerating production, building out a Union address. We talked a lot about what we wound up sharing with the world because they knew that they were mission event about adding additional missions, accelerating production, building out a moon base, test flight mission. It was very energizing. It's going to be challenging because they knew that they were up to something. This is a risky mission for sure. Any type of new test flight mission going in this environment is going to be challenging, and certainly it was very helpful for me to hear their feedback as well. I would suspect a point or two wound up in I think that mission event. I think it was very helpful for them in that regard. So, and certainly it was very helpful for me to hear their feedback as well. I would suspect a point or two wound up in the ignition event.
Thanks, Denise Chow with NBC News. I think for Lori or Norm, I'm curious what you anticipate could be some of the biggest challenges over the next few days, whether that's from a spacecraft or system standpoint or crew or Norm. I'm curious what you anticipate could be some of the biggest challenges over the next few days, whether that's from a spacecraft or system standpoint or crew workload.
TLI, we're working the crew really hard. I'll jump in. Flight day one from a crew workload. When they go to sleep tonight, tough. Between now in the middle of their sleep, TLI, we're working the crew really hard to do the perigee raise burn. When they go to sleep tonight, they're waking up. Their sleep's disrupted. They're hitting on all cylinders. Do the perigee raise burn. They may not be feeling well, and so on top of that, so we know that their sleep's disrupted. Their flight day two up they're hitting on all cylinders. TLI is may not be feeling well. We know it drops off then. On top of that, so we know into this. Flight day one, we trained for that. And we did simulations for this. We put the crew in exactly that state. We know it drops off then on orbit, and so going into this, they probably were feeling great. We did simulations. We got a good gauge in exactly that state. And the mission control team is great because they're watching the crew constantly. They probably were watching their performance. But we also have a good gauge. Very good at saying, "Hey, too hard." Enough. And the mission control team is great because they're watching the crew constantly. That they're watching their performance, doing everything in the best interest that's very good at saying, "Hey." Enough, so making sure that we're not working the crew so hard, we'll make certain they make mistakes or something. We're doing everything in the best interest of meeting the mission objectives. We work as a collective, making sure that we're not working the crew so hard that our best opportunities or something of that nature. They may add more stuff to the timeline before it's all done, and they may take some stuff out. So this is our, if we need to, our best opportunity. All the time. They may add more stuff to the timeline before it's all done, and they may take some stuff out. The bigger challenge if we need to, but we adjust all the time on those things.
So right up here.
That's leading up to TLI. That's probably one of the bigger challenges.
Hi, Robert Perlman with CollectSpace.com. For the administrator,
right up here.
You mentioned the 53-year hiatus, and in that time, now most of the world's population wasn't alive for Apollo, like I think you and me. You mentioned the 53-year hiatus, and I wonder in that time, now most of the world's population wasn't alive for Apollo, even this early in the mission, that this has captured the imagination of those people that have never seen anyone go to the moon before, even this early in the mission, that were in the national level, and how important is the imagination of those people that have never seen anyone go to the moon before on a world level,
I've said it many times,
national level, and how important is it to NASA to capture
for what we do here at NASA to inspire? It should be a component
I've said it many
of every
times.
one of our missions.
I think it's,
I've talked about, foundational for
after
what we do here at NASA to inspire. That are going to dress up as astronauts for Halloween. Every one of our missions to inspire and talked about create interest. I think after the next generation, you're going to have more kids that are going to dress up as astronauts for Halloween. We want to inspire. How have we done so far? Create interest, captivating the world's next generation to grow up in America's return to the moon. I don't know. You have to tell me. We've been how have we done so far? Hours, captivating the world's interest in I would say, and I felt this way going into it. I don't know. You have to tell me T0. A lot of people would be paying attention. I suspect when some of the imagery starts this way going into it, maybe come back from the moon, that's going to further bring people into this story. I suspect then we bring them home safely and we start maybe come back from the moon. That's going to further bring people into this story. Yeah, I think inspiration is extremely important. I think people, we start preparing for some of the commentary up to now. How many people really know we're going around the moon? I'm willing to bet right now. I think inspiration is extremely important. I think people, despite their interest some of the commentary up to now, how many people really know we're going around the moon? I'm willing to bet right now a lot of people do, and I think we'll only draw in their interest further as the mission proceeds.
Robert Coppinger, British Interplanetary Society Space Flight Magazine. Commander Wiseman said during the crew news conference in September last year that when they get off the planet, the man needs to spend 3 or 4 days going around the Earth. What sequence of events news conference in September last year to happen for that when they get off the planet, the man needs to spend 3 or 4 days. Be so specific about such what sequence of events? I know you all talk about it being a test flight. To happen for that to occur. What would need to happen for that? Be so specific about such a detailed in such a fashion. I know you all talk about it being a test flight.
So the question had just confirmed, it's kind of hard to hear, but the question is that the commander talked about one of the alternate missions where they maybe would stay in Earth orbit for 3 or 4 or 5 days. It's kind of hard to hear, but the question is that the commander talked about one of the alternate missions where they maybe would stay in Earth orbit for 3 or 4 or 5 days did not quite deliver us to where we needed to be. One of the scenarios that would have led to that is if for some reason during the launch that the SLS did not quite deliver us to where we needed to be, or the upper stage didn't deliver us to the orbit that we needed to be in. That would have been one of the scenarios. But I don't think we're going to need to worry about that, hopefully. But the other thing is if for some reason we're able to stay, but we're not able to do the TLI burn, we would stay in Earth orbit. So there's a couple of scenarios. The other thing is if for some reason we're able to stay, but we're not able to do the TLI burn, we would stay in Earth orbit. So there's a couple of scenarios where that could happen.
For anybody. In the weeks leading up to the launch, we were talking about some of the distance records and altitude records and speed records that would be achieved that were contingent on the specific day and time of launch. We were talking about some of the distance records and altitude records and speed records that would be achieved that were contingent on the specific day and time of launch. I was wondering if we had a better concept of what those might be now that we are successfully off the ground.
Is executed as we think it's going to be. It'll be on flight day 6. The predicts right now, assuming all the burns go as planned and the timeline 18 hours, 18 and a half hours, we think it's going to be. It'll be on flight day 6. Durations and things like that matter. Of about, but that's where we will 18 and a half hours beat the Apollo distance record, or at least durations and things like that matter. So, but that'll be an exciting day. We will and we'll stand by to see beat the Apollo distance record, or at least that's where we believe that's going to happen. So that'll be an exciting day. And we'll stand by to see what transpires.
I'm Han Ju-yang from Kumin Daily in South Korea. And first of all, congratulations on today's successful launch. Hi, I'm Han Ju-yang from Kumin Daily in South Korea. And first of all, this mission also carried a Korean satellite on board. And my question is for why does a crewed lunar mission also carried a Korean not just for United States, but for the global community? Why does a crewed lunar mission like Artemis 2 matter not just for United States,
these type of endeavors, we never go alone. We go with our international partners. We have a Canadian Space Agency astronaut these type of endeavors. We never go carrying a lot of CubeSats. We go with our international partners. We are going to continue to Space Agency astronaut that's on board this mission. We are carrying a lot of CubeSats from our Artemis support. Is contributing a pressurized rover. We are going to continue to do this. A major contribution to our efforts of having an enduring presence on the lunar surface contributing itself. A pressurized Space Agency just a few days ago we signed a memorandum of understanding for efforts of having an enduring presence on the surface of the moon, a component of the Italian Space Agency. Just a few days ago, we also a key component understanding for a habitation module from last week. Half of the Artemis Accord partners were present and spent a good portion of the second day talking together to the recognizing to the ignition event from last week. Half of the Artemis Accord can make contributions like a pressurized rover or habitation module, and many others are going to work with their academic institutions and universities for science instruments that can make contributions like a pressurized rover or habitation module, and many others are going to work with their academic institutions and universities for science instruments that could wind up on the phase one component to the moon base itself. So as we continue to press forward under this program, this is something that NASA is extremely proud of, and will continue to do so as we continue to press forward under this program.
So we're going to do last question here. I'm going to go over to you in the back.
Can you just talk a little bit about the propellant loading this morning? Was it flawless? Were there any leaks detected?
Aerospace America.
Repeat of the wet dress rehearsal? Talk a little bit about the propellant loading this morning. Was it flawless? Were there any leaks detected? Was it a repeat of the wet dress rehearsal?
I think it went extremely well.
Did you learn anything?
What I heard this morning, and Amit may have an update from later, but I think it went extremely well. Of the hydrogen, what I heard this morning, and Amit may have an update for the hydrogen we saw leaks below 1%. Some of the leaks that we've seen of the hydrogen, again, the seals that we replaced seemed to perform extremely well. We did for the hydrogen we saw leaks below 1%, kind of partway through, significantly lower. Again, the seal that we replaced seemed to perform extremely well. We did well within the constraints, kind of partway through. 60% is the bound that we have. Leak went up to about 1.4%. So I think it performed extremely well. We actually still finished the tanking early. Well within the constraints. From what I understood. So I think it went extremely well. So I think it performed extremely well. We actually finished the tanking early. From what I understood. So I think it went extremely well. Proved to be very successful. So again, the seals that we had replaced out at the pad.
Thank you all for coming out and covering humanity's return to the moon. Stay tuned for updates on NASA's social channels, including our continuous coverage on YouTube and NASA coming out and covering humanity's return to the moon. Stay tuned for updates on NASA's social channels, including our continuous coverage on YouTube and NASA Plus. Go Artemis.
Thank you.
This is Mission Control Houston. Thanks for coming back to us. We are here in the Artemis II Flight Control Room. This is Mission Control Houston. Thanks for coming back to us. Center in Houston, Texas. We are here in the Artemis II with the mission and 4 Artemis II crew members. The white flight making their way to the moon. Mission Control Center in Houston, Texas. For those coming that were joining on the press conference, Artemis II crew members. Quick recap of some of the activities that happened over the course of the hour that were joining on the press conference. We'll do a quick recap of some of the activities that happened thermal roll over the course of the hour ahead of executing the apogee raise burn. We did have a successful thermal roll, the apogee raise burn, of executing the apogee raise burn with an updated time of the apogee 1 hour 46 minutes and 7 seconds. With an updated duration of the burn was 18 minutes MET 1 hour 46 minutes and 7 seconds. At this time, the flight dynamics officer confirms the duration that it was a good burn, so they are on a good trajectory. 6 seconds. At this time, the flight dynamics officer confirms that it was a good burn, so they are on a good trajectory. This flight day and into next. The high Earth orbit puts them into high Earth orbit for a 43,730 by 0 statute mile orbit. The high Earth orbit puts them into orbits the Earth a 43,730 once a day. It's a 23.5 statute mile orbit, which orbits the Earth approximately once a day. It's a 23.5 hour orbit. At this point, the crew is working through a number of steps to prepare for their first day in orbit, their first night. Working through a number of steps. They have a number of activities coming up, including to prepare for the proximity operations, their first demonstration day in orbit, their first night, where Integrity will separate a number of activities coming up, including the proximity operations demonstration, where Integrity will separate from the second stage.
Integrity, those PCDs are located in Foxtrot 3 large. Integrity, good. String 1, helium clearing.
Integrity copies.
Integrity, good. String 1, helium clearing.
Camera checkout, step 9. Would you like me to go ahead and configure for our pod at this time? Stand in the docking camera checkout, step 9. Would you like me to go ahead and configure for our pod at this time?
Checking.
Continuing the recap, starting with the current discussion where integrity is now beginning a thermal roll. With the current
yes, please configure for our
discussion where integrity is now beginning a thermal roll.
And integrity for docking cam, yes, please configure for our pod.
Mission Specialist Christina Cook is setting up the docking camera ahead of the proximity operations demo for later today. Mission Specialist Christina Cook is setting up the docking camera ahead of the proximity operations demo for later today. Right now, the crew is in the middle of executing a thermal roll. Right now, the crew is in the middle of executing a thermal roll, more even distribution of heating on the interim cryogenic. This procedure allows for as well more even distribution of heating the integrity spacecraft on the interim cryogenic propulsion stage, as well as NASA astronaut Christina Cook is also working through troubleshooting steps of the waste management system. NASA astronaut Christina Cook is also working through troubleshooting steps of the waste management system that's aboard the Integrity spacecraft. The toilet fan is reported to be jammed. Now the ground teams are coming up with instructions on how to get into the fan to be jammed and clear that area. To now revive, the ground teams are coming up with instructions on how to get into the fan. In the meantime, they're getting their contingency to revive the toilet for the mission. Waste management. In the meantime, they're getting their contingency for urine. The fecal collection of the toilet. Waste management specific capability can still be used with the waste management system. The fecal collection of the toilet, that specific capability can still be used with the waste management system aboard Orion. At this time, here in the Artemis II flight control room, we're beginning the first handover of the mission. At this time, the ascent teams led by flight control room Freeling are handing over to the first handover of the mission. The ascent teams, you can see Flight Director Jeff Radigan are handing over to the orbit of Freeling shift. Right now, he is the one conducting the handover. You can see Flight Director Jeff Radigan a read on all of the activities they have upcoming for the rest of the day. He is the one conducting the handover. Namely, the one in the near term is a proximity operations demonstration. All of the activities they have upcoming for the rest of the day. Namely, the one in the near term is a proximity operations demonstration. We are also anticipating a crossover of the tracking and data relay satellites.
Integrity Houston for GNC.
We are also anticipating a crossover of the tracking and data relay satellites.
Unfiltered in DFS with Channel 1. Integrity Houston for GNC. System is still performing nominally, but we are updating unfiltered in BFS with Channel 1 again.
That call from Capcom Stan Love addressing the guidance, navigation, and control system navigation source. That call from Capcom Stan Love addressing the guidance, navigation, and control system part of navigation source to Flight Director Jeff Radigan Channel 1 to begin the Orbit 1 shift on Flight Day 1. They're preparing for the proximity operations demonstration. To ahead of that, there's an expected handover to begin the Orbit 1 data relay Flight Day 1. To the Deep Space operations demonstration. Ahead of that, there's an expected handover from the tracking and data relay satellites to the successful execution of the apogee raise burn. Puts the crew in the high Earth orbit, the successful execution of the apogee raise burn, integrity the crew and its crew, Earth orbit far from Earth, which with the apogee being upwards of integrity and its 43,000 miles far from Earth, with the geosynchronous with the apogee being satellite upwards network of in a geosynchronous positioning around 23 with the geosynchronous TDRS satellite integrity will pass the near geosynchronous positioning around 23 with that miles expected. The crew of integrity will pass than 24 minutes from now. Network will be a transition from with the TDRS to the expected deep space network. A little less than 24 minutes from now, the data rates gathered from deep space network may allow us to hop on board space network and get some first preliminary views. The data rates gathered from the deep space network may allow us to hop on board to prioritize the proximity operations preliminary views of the crew prior to them being them needing to prioritize the proximity operations demonstration. We'll take a pause here as and listen for some Orion to Earth communications as the team goes through their handover procedures, so we can listen in and listen for some Orion to Earth communications as the team goes through their handover procedures, so we can listen in on the next steps for the Orbit 1 team.
Integrity Houston, about halfway through the eclipse, we're seeing all of our power predicts right on. Thank you for the help with the power down. Integrity Houston, about halfway through the eclipse, we're seeing all of our power predicts right on. Thank you for the help with the power down.
Integrity copies.
This is Mission Control Houston. Quick update on what you're seeing. This is Mission Control Houston. Quick update on what you're seeing. Brought up onto the front screen by the control officer here in Mission Control Houston. It's called the Ascent This display is brought up onto the front screen. The first phases of control officer here in Mission Control Houston. It's called the Ascent toggled settings between tanking. Is available the Ascent phase on the core stage. And now the ICPS phase. Toggled settings as you can note from the display here. We're in a post phase on the core stage, coast, and now the ICPS right now phase. The attitude for, as you can note from the display here, we're in a post apogee raise burn coast.
1 minute to string 2
right now the
helium
attitude for
also your PCL
integrity
Rev 1
is
EO deorbit burn plan is on board. 1 minute to string 2 helium clearing. The name is also your PCL Rev 1 EO deorbit burn plan is on board. That's in slot 2. The name is EO D/O Rev 1. Outstanding.
Helium clearing, and we see the burn plan. Thanks.
Outstanding. And integrity 2 minutes to thermal roll.
Copy.
And integrity 2 minutes to thermal roll.
Copy.
Integrity, good. String 2 helium clearing. Integrity, good. String 2 helium clearing. Jeremy, also thermal roll is complete. Jeremy, go ahead with your AGA numbers. Jeremy, also thermal roll is complete. Jeremy, go ahead with your AGA numbers.
3.7. O2 is 18.5 scale low, and then CO2 is 3.7, and O2 is 14.5. Temperature 70.3.
We copy all those numbers. Thank you.
Pressure is 14.65.
We copy all those numbers. Thank you. Integrity Houston for docking camera with an action on the DU. Integrity Houston for docking camera with an action on the DU.
Go.
For the docking cam, we see exposure set to 1 instead of 3. We think that'll be too dark. You can set that back to 3 on rpod.cam. For the docking cam, we see exposure set to 1 instead of 3. We think that'll be too dark. You can set that back to 3 on rpod.cam, HKL4.
Copy, thank you.
This is Mission Control Houston. The Ascent and Orbit 1 teams have completed their handover. This is Mission Control Houston. Judd Freeling sends some parting farewell words to the teams here, congratulating them have completed their handover of getting the 4-member crew of Artemis Freeling sends some parting farewell words to the teams here, congratulating them on the milestone at a mission elapsed time of getting the 2 hours 4-member crew of Artemis 2 where they are now.
Integrity thermal roll complete.
At a mission elapsed time of 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Integrity copy.
Integrity thermal roll complete.
Integrity copies.
The Integrity crew working through their procedures. You heard thermal roll complete to allow for even heating on the outside of the spacecraft. The Integrity crew working through their procedures throughout the flight. Thermal roll complete. Right now, the teams here have, like I said, have successfully handed outside of the spacecraft. You've been hearing the voice of Capcom periodically throughout the flight for the ascent shift. Right now, the teams here have, like I said, have successfully handed over. You've been hearing the voice of Capcom Love and for the ascent shift. They'll be handing over to Capcom for the Orbit 1 shift and the beginning of proximity operations demonstration and NASA astronaut Raja Chari. You'll hear their voices for the Orbit 1 shift and the beginning of proximity operations demonstration. From here, Mission Control Houston, that will conclude the ascent shift. We'll hand over here at the PAO console to your Orbit 1 commentator. From here, Mission Control Houston, that will conclude the ascent shift. She'll take you through the proximity operations console and to some of the Orbit 1 commentator to the end of the cruise day and the beginning of their sleep period. She'll take you through the proximity operations and that's it for the activities that lead to the end of the cruise day and the beginning of their sleep period. As we allow a few minutes to reconfigure the PAO console. That's it for the ascent team. This is 24/7 commentary. Stand by as we allow a few minutes to reconfigure the PAO console
Houston Integrity,
and provide 24/7 commentary.
Hello, Christina. You're coming in louder. How me?
Houston Integrity, ComTech on Peltor. Amy, great to hear your voice. I have you the same. Good to hear
that
Christina. Our Peltor is a little louder than the mic stub. Amy, great to hear your voice. I have you the same. Good to hear that our Peltor is a little louder than the mic stub.
We copy. Integrity Houston, 5 minutes to DSN handover. Integrity Houston, 5 minutes to DSN handover.
Integrity.
Integrity Houston, ICPS blowdown in progress. Integrity Houston, ICPS blowdown in progress. Integrity Houston, voice check on DSN. Integrity Houston, voice check on DSN.
Houston, Integrity has you loud and clear on DSN.
And we have you loud and clear as well, and while we were handing over, ICPS was in blowdown. And we have you loud and clear as well, and while we were handing over, ICPS was in blowdown.
Copy all, and we have 2 GNC cautions on the board for right RHC. Let us know if you see them. Copy all, and we have 2 GNC cautions
Copy,
on
Christina,
the board
we're seeing
for
the
right
same.
RHC.
We think we might have a channel failure. We are taking a look. Copy, Christina, we're seeing the same. We think we might have a channel failure. We are taking a look. Integrity Houston for camera streaming.